Hey Blasters, and welcome to the Blaston Championships of 2022. Want to showcase your skills in the futuristic duels of Blaston? Well, it's time to put those dodging skills to the test and go head to head with the top players in the Blaston Championships. But first, sit back and relax as we take you through of how it would all go down. The Blaston Championship consists of 3 phases: point gathering, last chance qualifiers, and the Blaston Championship finals. Phase 1 starts this August, where you'll be able to participate in the championships just by playing the game. Players who play the ranked mode between August and September and place in the top 100 on the seasonal leaderboard will receive championship points to earn their spot in the finals. But that's not all. Each week from Tuesday to Thursday, we'll be hosting an in-game Blaston challenge where you can gather even more championship points. Here you enter by using your blasts and battle others to rack up as many wins as you can before you get 5 losses. The player with the most victories wins the challenge. Each week we'll switch out the game mode in the Blast Zone challenge, starting with the seasonal mode Quick Draw, Arctic Blast, and then Street Brawl. So even if you don't have time to grind out those seasonal ranks, you can still join in on the action and earn championship points. We'll be offering other ways to earn championship points as well, introducing community events as sanctioned tournaments to help you raise your championship score. At the end of September, the players in North America and Europe with the most points will qualify for the Blaston Championship finals. Before we get to the final phase, however, let's take a look at the second one. Players who didn't make it to the finals with their championship points will have another chance to make it to the big show with the last chance qualifier. This tournament is divided into North American and European showdowns, with players competing in a double elimination bracket over the course of October. The top players will earn a slot at the Blaston Championship Finals, taking place in November, where they'll fight for $10,000 and the chance to become
the champion of their region.
Streamed on Twitch with a professional broadcast, we'll showcase all of the matches in the Blaston Championship Finals weekend.
Here comes the full setup, the full attack, the Super Majestic from both sides. Again, it's the double Viper. 3, 2, who's gonna take it?
Hope that you're excited to compete in the first ever Blaston Championship. We wish you good luck and may the best blaster win.
Welcome, everybody, to the Blaston Season 1 Championship, Day 1 out of 4. My name is Nightfire with 2 E's. I am joined by a host of fantastic casters on the desk here this afternoon, Dr. Oolong and Captain Fabulous. Oolong, how are you feeling today for what is going to be the start of a stellar tournament?
I'm feeling hyped. I'm feeling professional, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the culmination of 10 weeks worth of work, and I'm ready for it. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the culmination for us as casters, obviously, but we got a player here on this side, Captain Fabulous, as well. This is the culmination of a full season of time invested into playing this game, Cap. I mean, how do you feel about your upcoming games and obviously this tournament?
Well, I'm really excited for the tournament. I don't have high hopes for my prospects going to the end, to be honest. You know, I've got 24 on JJ in my bracket, but I should have a lot of really fun games, and I'm really excited to play my first one against Tim, because honestly, he's one of the nicest guys in Blaston, despite what the mods say, and he is a really fun match. me versus him. But also Oolong also has put a full season of playtime into this.
Yep. Didn't quite make it this time around, but I'm coming for all of you next season.
Oh,
and that's a threat and a promise.
Well, we ran the ad before we jumped into the stream. There's a lot of competitive Blaston coming up ahead of us, right? I mean, the whole championship series that they've just debuted to us is something to really be excited about. And I mean, even, one key thing there that if you didn't notice it was that the community run events are also going to net you points in this pursuit to be qualified into this championship event. And so points can be earned right here in this. This is the first time, essentially, you can get points. So, if you want to start with a good foot, this is going to be the tournament to do it in. And so right now, there's a lot on the line for these players. Prize money, hardware, banners in-game exclusive to the champions, and obviously the points to be earned in the championship. There is a lot of hype around today, and we're just going to take a quick look at the overall bracket here before we get into things. Our first matchup is going to be 24 versus Hertog. We then have Sloge versus Shermie, J. Josie, and Arbo. Turbo and Peters. Bot01, Trix, Kronstar, Very Hungry Cat, Monty Band, Monster 17, and Captain Fabulous and Tim. Not necessarily in that order, but we are going to be going through the entire round one of today. All 8 matches are going to be broadcast live here on stream. And, if you noticed in the banner, it does say day 1 of 4. This is a 4-day event ahead of us here, obviously split across 2 weekends. So we have matchups 8 today here, 8 tomorrow, where we will be getting into some elimination rounds. Players will be getting knocked out. And then 8 the next weekend, and 6 to round things off, with that final round being a best of 7, I believe. So a lot of Blast On coming up ahead of us, and I'm very hyped to be getting into it, and I'm sure everyone at home is very hyped to be getting into it. I mean, is there any, just looking at the round 1 here, Oolong, I put you on the spot, is there anything that you see as a blowout here for game 1? Do you think, I mean, if I were to guess, I would say 24 has probably got a pretty good chance of coming out on top in their first game. But I mean, what do we?
Yeah.
I mean, we got predictions out there, right?
Yeah. So that was actually the first thing that I was going to say, is that if you haven't submitted your predictions yet, do go ahead and do that. I'm actually going to go ahead, drop the link in chat as well, because I need to pull it back up. But there is going to be a set of predictions. I don't believe there's any prize behind it as of yet, but maybe there will be in a couple weeks' time. So do go ahead and get those in. As far as matches that I see, I think that 24 in Heritage, the match that we're going to be hopping into in just a couple minutes here, it'll be a fun warm-up. But really specifically what I'm looking at, Captain Fabulous versus Tim. That one's exciting for me. Josie versus Arbo. Arbo's been absolutely killing it this season, and Josie has always been sort of the kingpin of Blaston. So that's definitely going to be a very close matchup, I would say, all things considered. Bot versus Trix. Bot is another one of the newer players, joined at the beginning of the year, got into VRML, and has just been skyrocketing in skill level. Him versus Trix, I think that one's going to be a good display of Bot skill. And then lastly, Kronster versus Very Hungry Cat. This, I believe, was a match that we actually ran the last week of VRML during the last week of season matches. And I believe that Very Hungry Cat came on top. So that's going to be a nice little rematch for these two. But you know what? The other great thing about the bracket is that it's double elimination. So even if players are getting eliminated today, it's going to be under a lot more pressure when they get to the losers bracket. And honestly, I always think that that's where most of the fun in these tournaments comes from.
Yeah, I mean, you really get to test players with that extra level of pressure on. And I mean, we can talk to one of those players right here this afternoon, Captain Fabulous. I mean, are you feeling the pressure of this upcoming event here this afternoon? Are you is there any butterflies in the stomach, or are you feeling pretty confident?
It's not that I feel confident. It's just that every time I felt confident in the past going up to like a fairly good match, I've always choked. So now there's kind of no pressure, because I'm kind of just like, I probably will choke. So if that happens, it's happened before.
Yeah.
Reverse psychology.
I'm just
hype yourself up.
Yeah. I'm trying to make myself play well. But no, I'm very excited to play Tim.
Now, I actually got a follow-up question on that. So we're playing on a bit of a not necessarily a strange rule set, but to keep things fair, we are playing on the most modern patch. However, we're limiting all of the attachment selections to the ones that were available during the reloaded update. So what attachments are you expecting to see? What do you think is going to play the biggest factor in these upcoming games, just based off the last season's worth of play?
Well, Hammerade 3, Attachment 3, got a big tone down. So I think Hammerade 2 is kind of what we see replacing it. Hammerade 1 is also a lot better than it used to be, but it's more of like I catch you off guard and I kill you in one kind of go. Bounce has been toned down significantly. I don't think we'll see pretty much any bounce novas. It dives to 3 cheese balls or 2 cheese balls on weapon throw.
Rest in peace,
but really, I
Bounce
think
Nova.
the big story about the change isn't necessarily the attachments, but really some of the other changes which have happened in that Blaston has kind of transitioned to a far more aggressive meta, where we're seeing double Viper and just pure out aggression really take kind of center stage here, especially because both Vipers have had their cooldowns reduced by 1. And the reason I'm particularly happy about that, despite fighting for us to play on the old patch, is that does actually favor.
Right. And considering that aggression, I mean, I definitely agree with you. I don't expect it. I do expect actually to see Bounce Nova being run. I don't expect it to win any matches like it was during the last season. But we still have the Tank Nova and a couple more defensive options. I mean, do you view that as viable against the Vipers, or do you think that this is really going to be just a test of drop blocking skill?
No, I think Tank Nova does well against aggression, because what it does is, especially with Vipers who don't tend to have a lot of collision damage, which they're just going to use, they tend to be like high damage guns, but low collision, so they can't really just clear stuff. By putting down a bunch of HP Novas, what you do is you force the Viper player to basically get to the back of the podium, try and get around them. It just slows that aggression and gives you some breathing room. So yeah, I am predicting that people will bring that against me.
All right. Well, that sounds good. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how these players adapt to that most recent update. I do see them in game, so I believe we're going to be switching over in just a second.
Yeah, just getting things set up in the lobby side of things, and then we'll be diving in. We will be able to get an active look at the
new arena.
Yeah, well, the new arena and what kind of loadouts we got here this afternoon. And I'm curious what the thoughts are coming from you guys here with Hertog in blue, 24 in pink. Anything special we're seeing? Anything out of the ordinary? Or is it pretty much tried and true? I see the double Viper coming in from 24. Yeah. That's pretty standard.
Yeah, well, and you know what? Even if it's standard, I don't think that 24 usually runs it. So from Heritage's end, I see that Nova Nade. We really didn't see a lot of Nova Nade during normal play. We saw Hammer Nade take up that slot and basically be a more flexible option. However, Heritage looks for those quick damage with the nades, so I'm guessing that that's his main motivation behind using this weapon. I also see that Tank Nova that we were just talking about, and the fast hammer nade. So he's really looking to get the nade damage out using this loadout.
We are into round 1 as we kick things off here. Already Hertog taking some slight early damage, dodging all of the double Vipers though, and now going for their setup with those Novas coming out, trying to sort of catch and disrupt zone out.
Whoa,
24.
And land the Nova nade.
That was a very nice nade.
With just an impenetrable wall of Novas. Yep. Exactly what Cap was talking about before this match. It really puts you in a rough spot.
Big connection from the Hurricane, though, something that you definitely want to be avoiding here. 24 does a better job that time of dodging that Nova nade and the Hammer nade as well. Here comes the Ellipse. The Viper does connect. Big damage for Heritage to get back into this. Has to avoid now. The double Viper coming at them and gets connected with a Hurricane up top. A solid job coming out, though, to kick things off from 24. And Heritage honestly putting up a good fight in round 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Heritage, he really, I mean, he is kind of this master of nades playstyle, but the thing to remember with nades is that, you know, their effective use time is only a couple seconds long. So if he does end up using his whole combo too soon, he actually could be in a good spot of trouble because that'll delay the spawning time of the rest of his weapons, including that defensive Nova that he absolutely needs to survive these pushes.
Yeah, and they actually have the lead now because they connected early with a bounce Viper shot there, and they've dodged everything here 24 is thrown at them. So right now they do have a solid lead as I say that. Oh no, the Hurricanes! The huge Hurricanes connecting there, and I mean those seem to be as devastating as Viper shots connecting.
Oh yeah. Another thing to note is that there is currently a visual bug in the game. Those Hurricanes are not doing 10 damage; they are doing 14 damage. So that was 45 damage from those 3 Hurricanes right there, and a Viper ellipse shot is going to take it for 24.
I wonder if we're going to go into a loadout swap. No, Heritage sticking with what they know. I mean, they got 24 down. They had a lead going into round 2. You know, it's not to say that it's out of the question that they can continue to make this work. It's just now really a matter of making it work, but then also dodging the double Viper, and that's certainly not what they need to start things off.
Okay, but a good chunk of damage. Another thing to note, too, with that Health Nova is that Heritage is actually using the Health Nova to essentially protect his nade and prevent 2-4 from being able to snipe him right out of the air.
I legitimately just think we saw a possum play there from 24 as they dodged to the ground. They then just laid on the ground.
Did it again!
Unreal. Connects with the Viper. Heritage tries to dodge. Does a good job of shutting down that Nova nade by countering it with that, I think it was the hammer.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, sadly, it's going to take a little bit more than usual to get rid of those Novas, but 24 seems to want to really etch out his spot and then just stay there for as long as possible while the Novas pass over.
Almost predicting the dodge pattern from 24 to go down. They managed to connect with a very nice Viper shot that gets them back into this. 1 minute left into this round. We'll have to see if any of these... Oh, yep. Hurricane shots connect. Big damage there. 14, like you said, not 10. And so definitely impacting Heritage heavy. One Viper shot connected would definitely chunk them down to get things into 24's favor, but not quite yet. 35 seconds left. Everything's recharging. The Novas are there. The Hurricanes coming in. How is Heritage going to fare against this onslaught?
And that's what you see a lot more in this high-level play, is that they're really not using things piecemeal. They're willing to wait for the combo to come offline, because they would rather do a bit of damage with a big combo than no damage using weapons one at a time.
Almost works 24 into a bounce Viper shot there, but couldn't quite make it happen. Here comes their Hurricanes from up above. Oh, just no. One does connect onto the shoulder. Those Hurricanes have been devastating for 24 up against Heritage in this series.
Yeah. And the Hurricane, during the season, what we saw was a lot of people using Hurricane 3, which is substantially slower than the base version. And sort of as the counterplay, Hurricane 1, which is what you're seeing 24 use here, it's a lot faster to actually get to your opponent's podium. And thus, even without the increased damage, it sort of gives you a natural benefit compared to the normal Hurricane.
An exciting battle that we're into to kick things off, to say the least, as Heritage gets choked massively. 3 Hurricanes connect up top on top of the onslaught in front of them. Round 2 not going the way of Heritage. We'll have to see if they can string something together. You know, Vipers do obviously big damage, but that's all that really Heritage has that's going to really chunk down, outside of obviously that Nova nade also connecting. And yeah, the double Viper comes into play again. 24 takes another round. This is a best of 5, so we're coming up on series point here if 24 locks us in, and we're not seeing any loadout swaps here again. Ulan, that seems interesting to me.
Yeah, you know, I think that Heritage, at the end of the day, you know, players will sometimes do this thing where they switch to something they know less, and it actually ends up hurting them more. I think Heritage is happy with the damage that he's gotten in this loadout against arguably the best player in the game right now. You know, he doesn't want to change. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, to some degree.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say is, you know, how I always think about it is in terms of Viper shots. So the big weapons to watch out for from 24 outside of the normal Vipers are going to be the Frostbite, which does 15 damage, and that Hurricane, which again is doing 14 damage. So essentially every 2 Hurricanes are 2 points of damage short of a Viper shot.
Yeah, it's...
Puts it in perspective a little bit.
Yeah, it really
24
does.
is landing 2 or 3 of these every single time they go up. Speaking of which, they go up again.
Here comes one connecting. No, none of them connect. Everything's dodged. The double Viper dodged. The bounce Viper hitting for Heritage. Big chunks going on to 24. Getting Heritage back into this in the back minute here. But they are just one shot away, one Viper shot away from being down here. One Hurricane really away from being knocked down here.
Hurricane, absolutely. And sadly, Heritage, it sort of lost that element of surprise as soon as he hit that first nade of the match. Oh, but he's not going down without a fight.
No, they're not. Dodging the double Viper. No, can't quite get past it. Another round into the hands of 24. And Heritage just a round away from getting knocked down into the losers bracket. Their first and only game of the day, as again, we're just going through round 1. And so we'll have to see, again, what we get tomorrow from them. But for now, 24 is certainly playing up to what we'd expect. And a big bounce Viper does connect. Heritage in this one certainly now as they can't quite dodge that double Viper attack.
Yeah, and due to the changes during the recent patch, the natural counter to Vipers of all shapes and sizes has become drop blocking, which is dropping your weapon into a bullet in order to essentially get rid of the bullet. So those bounces are only going to have 5 health, and they're only going to do 5 collisions. So 24 could essentially drop block with any of the weapons, but they still have to pull it off.
Absolutely.
But they do manage to get a nice Viper lip shot in the very end, and they're going to go ahead and take the set.
Yes, indeed. Apologies for the cams there. That is a excellent start to the series, Cap. And I know you wanted to chime in there, so I want to get your thoughts on why we didn't see a loadout swap from Heritage. What was that whole sort of series, and what was that about?
Well, the reason we didn't get a loadout swap from Heritage is because if he got a loadout swap, if he initiated a loadout swap, that gives 24 an opportunity to get off of double Viper and into bullet hell. And 24 is very good at double Viper. We've just seen that, but he is a master of bullet hell. So your only real path to victory is taking a few games here on something that 24 is less skilled at while being incredibly skilled. Also, Heritage has a very unique playstyle, which is kind of nade focused. And I think a lot of it is that if you're coming to the finals of a tournament, you kind of want to show the best side of you or the best loadout that you have. And especially in a match against 24, you don't I don't want to say that Heritage doesn't think he's going to win it going in.
Sure.
He probably doesn't think he's going to win it going in, so he may as well play his game and show what he can do.
Yeah. I mean, hey, they like we saw there, they certainly got close by sticking to that loadout. You know, they certainly did bring things very close to potentially taking at least a couple of rounds in that series. And so, if anything, hats off to Heritage for competing against, again, that #1 seed. I mean, Oolong 24 is no slouch. We've known this since the start, really, of the season, even, that they are sort of the top dog, so to speak.
Yeah, as soon as 24 beat Josie, that was the moment where we all kind of sat back and went, welp, okay, I guess there's a new best player in Blaston.
Yeah.
And Heritage is very good, very sporadically, I would say. He's very good at just taking you out with those nades in all of 5 seconds. And we actually saw that in game 1, where he managed to land that very, very nice Nova nade and the nice follow-up with the fast hammer nade. It's just as soon as, that's kind of a one-trick pony, and 24 is not just going to not learn from his mistakes. So as soon as he started really paying attention to when those nades were out, again, 10 seconds worth of cooldown that maybe goes off in all of 5-10 seconds as far as effective time those bullets are on the screen. And then he was able to fire back pretty much freely, except for that health node, which we did see him putting down lines of that, but it wasn't really getting him any benefit on his overall cooldown.
Yeah, and we are just now getting ready for our next matchup here. So if you do see me typing on the keyboard or something like that, it's just getting codes in, entering codes in, and getting ready for our
multitasking.
Yeah. Getting ready for our next lobby. That's why I have these fantastic casters and on the desk here this afternoon to help support me, because they certainly know this game in and out. You guys have been putting in the time and playing this game since well before this season started, which really means you have an even deeper understanding of the game, because there wasn't attachments. There was a lot of things that have been added over the course at the start of season 1 and even now leading into the end of season 1 that have really sort of, I think at least, really spiced up the competitive scene. I mean, would you agree that these updates that have come through have really kind of changed the metas that people have been playing?
Oh,
100%.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I also think that, listen, as much from a player perspective, I don't take this, but I also think it gives the devs a little bit more wiggle room too. They don't have to introduce a whole new weapon that is, a Nova with additional health. Now they can tweak the numbers and come out with an attachment. And all of a sudden, now you have a brand new way of using a weapon that maybe you've always used the same exact way for the first, 2 years of this game's existence.
Yeah, it is kind of a cool way to be able to switch up the variety that we do see. I guess that a player does see, and at this stage is something I think we can hopefully expect to continue. With this championship series coming up, that's gonna. I mean, that alone is incredibly exciting. I mean, just that trailer has me very hyped with all of the in-game tournament playing. It's awesome. And I mean, speaking of awesome, we are getting ready to dive into our next matchup, Cronster versus Very Hungry Cat. And we are getting a little bit of a display of some of those banners right now, which I do love to see. If once we get that angle, you'll see behind the players there, banners they've already managed to win by getting into the Season 1 finalists. Very cool stuff. But you also see that Blast Championship advertisement. So a lot of excitement around this game, honestly. I'm very happy with how Resolution Games has really dedicated themselves to making Blaston an esport. And
yeah,
I mean, what are we seeing here on the loadouts? Anything that stands out to you? Anything unique that you think that's kind of surprising?
Well, I do see the Splitting Hurricane, which, if you heard me refer to Hurricane 3, essentially, you unlock all of the attachments in a certain order. So 1, 2, and 3 is usually how we internally refer to them. I will try and describe what each one of those weapon attachments does, since now I know what all they do. So that one is going to split and also bounce a little bit more when it's actually in the air, creating a small little radius of projectiles rather than just the one big projectile like we saw last game. So Hungry Cat's essentially looking to use that to really cloud Cronster's play space with bullets, really make it hard for him to move. Ooh,
wow.
It's also going to be significantly slower than that other Hurricane attachment that we saw.
Really great dodge work coming out here from both of these players. Hungry Cat doing a great job of dodging the initial onslaught, and then Cronstar dodging the Wildcat, but there's a great setup that forces Hungry Cat into a big hammer nade and chunks down their HP. Cronstar now in the lead in the first 30 seconds already. This is a very fast-paced game.
Yep. Yeah, and that Viper ellipse landing, just again, I see a lot of Eve players actually, or not Eve, I'm so sorry.
Echo.
Echo players in chat right now, so I'm gonna try and explain things. Whenever we refer to ellipse, we're referring to weapons that curve. So, ooh, there you go.
Big
Landing
hit.
a straight Viper, that is not going to curve, but that pistol that Cronster has is actually going to do that. Ooh, and he's gonna land a Viper ellipse shot. Huge 30 damage, really chunking Hungry Cat here.
Yeah, and this is a great back and forth. Both of these players connecting with their Vipers. Those Vipers doing huge damage. Trying to connect with the Luma there. Can't quite. And chipping away with the Wildcat. A great bit of damage done there with the SMG. And Hungry Cat dodges down into the Viper ellipse. A huge connection that... Wow, that was a great comeback from Cronstar. I thought Hungry Cat had control there for the most of that, for a good portion of that round.
Yeah, and these curves, it's interesting. So the cost is really in the actual cooldown. Oh, no! The cost is in the cooldown itself, but obviously these weapons require a lot of skill to be able to curve them. And actually, Cronster also has the curved Luma on his build, too. So that's 3 weapons where he can do some change-ups. However, that curve on the Luma is very hard to pull off. It takes a lot of practice
That's a straight
to
Luma.
accurately land that.
There's no attachment, it's a straight Luma.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, wait, no attachment. Oh, okay. Shoot, never mind then.
And they actually connect with one onto Hungry Cat, a straight Luma connecting there. Only 1 bullet away for Hungry Cat as they go down. That's 2 rounds in the books. That's a game into the pocket of Cronstar. We play a best of 5 here, as we've been explaining, and between each game, players do have the option of swapping loadouts, changing up their kits, and resetting the lobby. So we'll see if we are going to get any sort of loadout swapping from either one of these players. Or, like we saw last series, both of these players just sort of locked in to their committed, loadouts that they've been practicing, the most comfortable loadouts that they have. And those are the ones that they're utilizing here. Up against, when it really matters, right? Oolong, I mean, now maybe isn't the time necessarily to be experimenting with something that you haven't been doing all season.
Yeah, now is the time to stick with what you know, and practice, and it's like gonna be like a worst case scenario sort of deal to counter pick specifically, you know, especially with stuff like the curves where they've been practicing, you know, all season, but realistically before the season. Wow, that was a nice shield from Very Hungry Cat. Hitting that Aegis.
Yeah, big connection there. Good opening for them. And
you're also seeing a little bit of juggling too with that Luma. So that Luma, being the bow, does a little bit less damage than the Viper, which is those snipers that you see. It has a shorter cooldown though, and it requires you to actually pull back that. So it requires two hands, but you'll see Kronster still using the sniper with it and basically just tossing the sniper into the air, getting his couple quick shots off, and then going back to shooting with the one-handed weapon.
And a good bit of dodge work coming in for both sides. As I say, that Kronstar gets absolutely chunked down by a nice full onslaught. That Wildcat proving difficult to dodge for Kronstar amongst the full setup. And there is a Luma connecting too, I think, that connect there up against Hungry Cat. And you can see how effective those bow shots are if they do connect. They do huge damage and certainly valuable. I think
doesn't matter where they land, the hand, the head, the body. It's all good hitboxes here in Blaston.
Yep. And the thing is, the players here, though, they really do understand the mechanics of dodging in this game. You know, they know how to move their hands out of the way of bullets and how to manipulate the body and the torso so that they're avoiding all of these shots and crawling on the floor. And, you know, it's really a practiced skill set. A nice grenade denial there. If they reach up and grab the grenade before it detonates, they can redirect it. It's a big risk because if you do miss it and it detonates on your hand, it does full damage. So you will see some players take the risk of going for it, others will not. And an interesting back and forth here between the Wildcat and the Luma to get us kind of even on HP in the first 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yup, and that Raptor Ellipse coming out doing 10 damage. Oh, he actually looks up. Oh my goodness. And you can see Hungry Cat trying to get the drop block there, trying to get rid of that Viper bullet rather than taking it to the face, and ends up taking it anyways.
Oh, dodging the straight Lumas.
The fire rate on that Luma is so quick, but again, it is pretty much dependent on how fast you can move your hand back and forth.
Yeah, and you know how you can weave it into the setup, right? Because just the straight Luma is not necessarily something that is terribly hard to focus on and dodge, and so you see Hungry Cat able to do it when there's not other elements distracting them. As I say that, they do end up hitting by those other elements, prioritizing which piece they're going to dodge, because obviously one does more damage than the other. You can afford to get hit by a couple of small bullets. You can't afford to get hit by a Viper Ellipse.
He tries to pop the Aegis, but doesn't quite get it. And Kronster's gonna go ahead and take round 2. Should we talk about shields real quick as they're just kind of taking a breather between this match?
Yeah, might as well. It's something that we have seen pop up here.
Right. So you're gonna see two major types of shield. There's a very slight chance we might see the third type, but essentially, for all shields in Blaston, they have health. Actually, all weapons in Blaston have health and collision, which health is how much damage they can take, and collision is how much they deal to other projectiles. That Aegis shield is only going to last for about 3 seconds. So for every second that the shield is deployed, it's going to continuously lose health. So that Aegis shield, Hungry Cat's essentially got to use it as a little bit of a parry. The other thing is that the shield actually has holes in it. So he's going to want to angle that shield down to try and get full effectiveness. Ooh, okay. Ooh, Kronster taking a huge chunk of damage from the bullet held right at the start. Oh, yeah, taking a straight Viper. It's only been 20 seconds.
Coming out here with a different style of attack. They absolutely devastate Kronstar with a perfect setup. Really, Kronstar maybe just almost just guessing wrong on the dodging patterns and dodging into everything, as here comes another attack. A little bit more damage done. Hungry Cat is getting chipped away just a touch, but not quite enough to really make it a threat just yet. Good dodging on the Wildcat there. A Viper obviously will get Kronster back into this, but for now, it's a good solid lead here for Hungry Cat going into the back half of round 1 in this third game.
Yeah, and the other thing that was huge there, Kronster actually managed to snipe the nade right out of the air with the Luma. That's not easy.
Yeah, no kidding.
Ooh, very
Great
nice shield.
Good nade denial, redirecting their efforts towards Hungry Cat, trying to connect with one of these Viper ellipses. If they can, it's going to be big damage. That one nearly connects. A good nade denial there. Very risky to reach up and grab that. If that one had detonated, it would have been bad news. And Kronstar really just a couple of points away from going down, and there it was. Just needed a few bullets to connect. Really, if one of those Lumas had connected, it could have reversed things. But Hungry Cat finally takes a round here in the series.
Yeah, and wow. Hungry Cat did most of the damage in that round in the first 20 seconds, but Kronstar managed to hold on for, what, a minute and a half?
Yeah, and almost kind of come back there. Did a great job of chipping away at Hungry Cat. And there's a good hammer nade that does quite a bit of damage to the back of Kronstar.
I thought that was actually going to do a lot more damage, but I think my view is just hiding how far away that nade actually was.
Yeah, the kind of idea being that you want that nade to detonate close to your opponent, but out of reach, right? So that it has the most limited spread and can potentially hit them the most.
Right, exactly. The other thing is that if you actually have it pop too close, it's actually easier to dodge since the initial spread of the nade is much smaller than the eventual spread at a distance. So really looking for that sweet spot where your opponent can't either try and pop it right on your opponent and do tons of damage, or put it at that perfect distance, that happy medium. Ooh, like this nade's looking to be. Oh my goodness.
They connected with 2 of those Luma shots there, and I think I just saw the Luma get utilized in a way I've never seen it before. A slow shot arc for the Luma shots, almost like a hurricane coming out there. And Hungry Cat goes into that second one, dodges the third, but still the Luma here for Kronstar absolutely devastating on these shots. And Hungry Cat is able to connect on these good bullet spreads. But, you know, it's these big damages connecting that are really hurting Hungry Cat. And,
yeah, Hungry Cat might be able to get off, 20, 30 damage on a weapon spread, but 2 of those Lumas from Kronstar is going to bring him even. So it's really a battle of how well Kronstar can dodge these pushes and how well Hungry Cat can, just stay alive against the huge chunks of damage that Kronstar can do with this build.
There it is.
Very nice timing there. The first Luma taking out the shield, the second Luma going right through the shield after it went down. And this is set point for Kronstar, right?
Yes, it is. This is game number 3. If they can win it, they take the series. Hungry Cat needs a round to survive, needs a round to take this game and push it to a game 4, because, again, these are all best of 5s. And so we'll have to see if Hungry Cat can put something together, if they can have another good opening like we saw in the round that they did win, and they do manage to get a little bit of damage done. Still, though, none of those Vipers connecting, and that's going to be the real big chunk damage they need. They certainly don't need to get hit by 2 Lumas.
Oh my goodness.
Really good.
I would say out of all the new weapons that have come out in the past couple years of Blaston, I would say that the Luma is the most meta defining. It's really quick, the rate of fire is really, really fast, and it operates off a very short cooldown. So it allows for these quick bursts of damage without much setup at all.
I mean, you say that, but I remember when Helix was a must-run.
We don't talk about launch Helix. We don't talk about launch Helix. That never happened.
When Spawn came out,
a Viper Ellipse connecting onto Hungry Cats to wrap things up. Game 3 into the hands of Kronstar, and that's going to take us back to the analyst desk and wait for our next matchup. I don't think we're going to have any breathers, guys. I think we're just going to go game to game to game.
Good.
So get ready for a lot of action here this afternoon. But Cap, I mean, what are your thoughts on what we saw there? Again, no loadout swaps, same sort of story. Obviously a bit of a different game.
I wasn't too surprised by that game. I think both players are fantastic, and both players are really fun to watch. But Kronstar is a player who's just got better and better and better playing this build, which recently got a buff. I mean, Hungry Cat's build recently got a buff too, so that's definitely something to think about. But yeah, I think the better player won today, or at least the player who played better won today. And I was surprised not to see Kronstar using 2 things, Bounce Viper and the Hurricane 1, just because I scrimmed against them a bunch, and I thought he was going to bring it. But he didn't need it today, so I always enjoy watching both of these players play.
And I think just based off the build that we saw him run usually, I think he may have replaced Bounce Viper with just the Luma, or am I misremembering?
Yeah. I think you're right, because they would run double Viper. They had the Ellipse.
Exactly. So the Ellipse stayed, and then the Bounce Viper ended up getting traded out for the Luma. Again, I really thought it was the Curve Luma just based off the way that he was drawing the string. He was sort of drawing it with those weird curves. But yeah, really showing the two major meta builds that we see, either set up and doing tons of damage at once, or sort of this slow chip damage with the Hammer Ellipse. That's actually the curving shotgun. Yes, we do have curving shotguns here in Blaston. It's great. The curving shotgun and the hammer nade, which is the shotgun nade, versus a build that is mostly the bow and then sniper damage.
Mm-hmm. And while we do have a little time here between games, I do want to take some time to mention that we are on twitch.tv/VR Master League, Facebook, YouTube, and Horizon venues. If you don't have venues, you can download it for free on your Quest or Quest 2. You can go and watch these games inside a giant arena with other people in VR on a huge movie theater-sized screen. You can enjoy the action. There's all sorts of in-game sort of things you can do, like high five, thumbs up, confetti out of the hands if you want to celebrate goals and wins. It is a really cool way to enjoy this watching esports, and especially VR esports, because then on top of all of that, right, you can just open up your library and download the game you're watching if you do enjoy it. That's kind of the beauty of the of that sort of tie-in there. And so if you do have a Quest or Quest 2, I'd encourage you to check it out if you haven't already. It's something that I really do like to have our VRML in, and we're going to continue to have other games, other seasons getting played out on the weekends in venues. So if you are a fan of esports, do please check that out. If you're a fan of esports, also follow this on Twitch, because again, this is where this is the central hub, if you will. We have Onward, Echo Arena, Blaston, Snapshot. Everything sort of gets centered into this channel on the weekends, and so do please follow this channel if you haven't already. And I think we do have both teams in lobby ready to go. I have to do a little bit of setup, and then we'll be ready to get into it. What are we seeing on loadouts?
And apology for being ignorant on the goings of Echo VR, but I have actually seen a lot of matches on this channel recently for Echo. Is there a season that started recently?
Yes, indeed. We are into Season 6. Yeah, Cap knows. Week 2 of Season 6, and Onward, I think, in the middle of Season 13. And so there certainly is a lot of good quality VR esports here, and we're just going to go ahead and give the players the go-ahead, and we're going to quickly pop in and see what we see on the loadouts. What stands out to you here as we do get ready for our next matchup?
Well, we see another Viper Ellipse Luma combo. I guess that's becoming very, very common here. And that Charge Hammer actually got a bit of a nerf in the last match. Only because people were really using it in the opposite way. They were firing it off uncharged to make the bullets slower. Pretty clever idea here. And then Peters is actually running the Curve Luma, verified this time.
Yeah.
Also running Hammer Nade 1, which got I don't know. What would you think, Cap? Did it get a buff or did it get a nerf?
It got a buff. No. Hammer Nade 1 got a buff, 100%. Is it good enough now after the buff? It's kind of like running a Lance Nade, which can do a lot more damage all at once.
It's like running an analog Lance Nade. Lances are all of the lasers we have. Oh my goodness.
And this is what
that's that damage.
This is what I wanted to say about Peter's build. This is all just very heavy, very fast-paced damage that they're taking here with that Hammer Nade, with their Hurricane attachment, the Viper bounce, the Luma, the Ellipse. There's just not a lot of room for Turbo to not take big chunks of damage. If they get hit at all, it's going to impact them hard. And Peters here really has the option of the other sort of option where they're dodging a lot of the slow setup, and one Luma does connect there.
Okay.
Yeah,
and they do manage to get that last Viper shot. And Peters is going to go ahead and take round 1. Oh my gosh.
Okay. Here's the thing. That Hammer Nade, that works the first time you use it, and then if your opponent's someone like Turbo, you should get wipes.
Yeah. That Hammer Nade, although it's being used in a completely different style, Turbo's having to actually dedicate a lot of brain space to it. Whoa, and they step out of bounds! Oh no! That's 50 damage right there just by stepping out of bounds.
Oh, but look at the comeback here. A big re-challenge. They managed to chunk down Peters, but Peters also connects with their big damage dealers. This is the threat of the Peters build here. It can do so much so quickly, and we got to give Peters a point and then cut back to us. But what'd you say, Cap? You're talking over me.
The game was less than a minute
not the same
long.
time.
So I just want to jump in and say, I think Turbo's going to bring HP Nova. And if he doesn't and he loses the game, this is on him, because I told him to bring HP Nova in this exact situation. Just to deal with this aggression.
So that's actually another important Blaston concept to sort of explain here. Damage and collision are two separate values for each weapon. So the value, the damage that you do to projectiles is different than the damage you deal to players. So, and it's usually inverse. A lot of the Vipers, especially recently, do less collision than they do damage. And for a lot of the lower damage dealing weapons, stuff like the Raptor, the Hammer, which is again that shotgun, the Raptor being all the pistols, it's sort of the opposite. They do more collision than they do damage, which makes them a little bit more defensive. So bringing out the Health Nova here and being able to stop all of these projectiles that are flying Turbo's way. I mean, heck, even Bounce Nova would be able to provide some defense in the situation.
And for those that aren't aware of sort of the ins and outs of this process here, between each game, which is a best of 3 in rounds, each player has the option of swapping their loadouts. Once that is initiated, they recreate a lobby, and whatever loadout they join the lobby with is the loadout they must play that round with. There's no chance to change things based off what your opponent has changed. It is kind of the mystery. What is my opponent going to do? Are they going to try something new? Are they going to try and counter me this way? Should I maybe counter them this way? It's really a lot of mind games that go into it when you do swap loadouts. Is that right, Oolong?
Yeah, and I love when the players play mind games with us, too. Because we'll think that they're going for a weapon swap. We'll talk about all these weapons that they could potentially swap to. And then, oh, hey, they came with the same exact loadout. Okay.
Well, Peters has Cortex Shield now, which he didn't have before. So that would have been subbed in for the Hammer 1.
Sorry,
yeah.
You're going to have to say that again.
Yeah, Hammer 1 got subbed out for the Cortex Shield. For Peters there, and so they've got a little bit more defensibility, interestingly enough, maybe anticipating that Turbo is going to bring a little bit more, I'm not sure what, but it does look like it is. They don't have is it the same loadout for Turbo? I thought they had double Viper.
No, they didn't. I think it's the exact same loadout they had before. I don't see any changes. I think Turbo just mind gamed them.
Yeah, just the mind games.
Got the better of them because of it.
Actually, wait, Raptor, Ellipse, and Raptor? I think that one of those was definitely not on his build before. Although, again, that last game maybe lasted a minute and a half, so I didn't quite get a lot of time to really fully digest the loadout. Actually, Peter's bringing the other shield here, the Cortex Shield, so that one's going to last for quite longer. It's going to be on a longer cooldown, but actually same amount of health.
Yeah, and you can see they were looking for it there when this assault was coming in. They wanted it to defend against that attack, and they do a nice job of shutting down the nade and a little bit of the spread in front of them, but they have been taking big chunks of damage here in the start of this series, and they haven't been able to connect on their double Viper combo here. Trying to hit with the Lumas as well, trying to dodge the Lumas, and it doesn't quite work out for them. Turbo does take a round, and much better bounce back here for Turbo in this round. I mean, a great reset and what was a big opening for Peters that really disrupted any sort of effort from Turbo, and a great bit of Luma trading back and forth there.
Yeah, and
oh no.
I joined the room late, sadly, so my view is all glitched out. But yeah, that Luma actually too will do less damage the shorter you draw the string. So in order to get a full effectiveness, Peters is really going to have to make sure he takes the time to use it to its full drawstring length.
Love to see the Bounce Viper getting bounced off the sidewalls there. Obviously something you see coming from a long way away, but doesn't see. What was that? A combo of a Viper
That was out of bounds
Ellipse?
damage.
Oh, really?
Yep.
The second
out
time.
Out of bounds is going to do 50 damage a second. So because damage over time in Blaston is actually split into half-second chunks, like the minimum damage you take from out of bounds is usually about 25. But yeah, just that little last bit of damage, it seemed to be out of bounds, just really pushing him into the corner of his play area. As you can see, that these play areas aren't exactly circular; they're kind of octagonal.
Yeah,
They're
octagonal.
octagonal. They're octagons. I know the name of the shape.
Octagonal, there you go. Turbo here trying to weather the storm. Peter is getting chunked down, dodges the Luma, tries to step forward to the front of the space to connect with the Wildcat and can't quite make it there. Does put up a good Cortex shield that shuts down a setup from Turbo and maybe gives an opportunity to try and hit with this Viper Ellipse.
Nice
a nice
catch.
Grenade denial as well, and they really are doing a good job of redirecting Turbo's efforts right now. And as they try and step up, Turbo is there and ready with the Luma, and it's almost as if Peter's steps into a big Luma combo and Turbo takes another game.
Turbo's strength as a player, he can read his opponents really well. After a few rounds of playing someone, he'll know how they dodge, how to predict it, and also how to steer them into shots. And I think that's what we see here.
Our third series of the afternoon, and we have had some great battles, but this is the first time we've been tied a game apiece to kick things off, and so maybe we can expect to go the distance here with all five. We'll have to see what we get, as Turbo is taking a little bit of damage here. Peter's trying to get back around. They've been so far unable to get on the board after the lobby swap, and now they actually are doing a good job of chunking down Turbo, and as I say that, Turbo does a good job of connecting with a Viper Ellipse.
And that's what we call the caster's curse, folks.
Uh-huh.
Well, he just said exactly what I said he's good at. he pushed Peters into his Viper Ellipse shot by throwing the Hammerade in the right place. That's what I talk about when Turbo is really good with predictions. And half damage already. Wow.
Yeah, Peters and Turbo both grabbed Lumas and stepped up for a fight, and the straight Luma prevails against Peters' Luma arc, and Turbo now forced to the back of the zone, a chance to connect, but Peters does miss it, has to pull up the shield to dodge the Luma, does a nice job of doing just that, and then again steps up to the front to try and connect with the Viper Ellipse and the Wildcat. A nice spread from Turbo forces them back into their zone, and again, it's all about zoning back and forth, up and down, left and right, and that's what you're seeing here, a push and pull of the player trying to move them into bigger bullets to connect.
Yeah. Yeah, and the one big thing I'm seeing from Peters that I think is partially the reason he's struggling here. He is really feeling the pressure from Turbo's build, and he is no longer using his weapons as a combo. He really is just kind of using them here and there as soon as they come off a cooldown. It's the sort of stuff that happens when you get tired, and he's really got to push against the urge to go full monkey.
Yeah, indeed, and looks like we are going to get another loadout swap.
Nice.
Maybe they go off of that shield and back to a little bit more aggression because, man, that opening that they had against Turbo, especially in those first two rounds, with that drill nade, that really seemed to be a tool that did net them a couple of big chunks of damage against Turbo. And I know that you said, Cap, it's something you kind of are aware of once it happens, but it's still... to add that onto a Luma, a Viper Ellipse, that's, 4 or 5 big hitters you got to be aware of.
I don't think he will. He might, but I don't think he'll bring back Hammerade 1. But I'm with you on replacing the shield. I think that's exactly why he's changing it. It's not really adding anything to his build. Maybe if he could swap it out for maybe a Hammerade 2, maybe a Majestic Nade, which is quite common in these types of loadouts, or even a Snowball, could really help. So yeah, he's gone for the Hammerade 2. Turbo seems pretty resolute to stick to this build that he's bought. It's working out for him. Let's
sometimes too, you run nades just for the distraction. Anything that takes your opponent's attention off the front of their play area immediately becomes dangerous, just because they're going to have to divert their attention in order to address it. Now, usually we see this with the Majestic Nade, which is the shortest cooldown nade, but I do think that there is potential to use that with the Drill Nade as well. So,
one of the benefits, especially with like Hammerade 2, which is what Peters is running, is if you can get it behind your opponent and then just wave your Vipers in their face, they've got to decide whether to turn their back on you to 2 Vipers and potentially lose 55 damage, or stand there and just wait for the nade to hit you at the back. So it's I think Blasted popularized that technique.
Yeah, they're good blasted strategies. I mean, hey, we see that too with a very hungry cat a lot of the time with that straight Viper Madness. Just really just the pure intimidation factor. And hey, you know what? If you've never watched VR esports,
Oh my goodness. Sorry, I have to chime in. If I let you guys talk about
we are
Blaston
jumping
all
right
day,
in, I suppose.
if I let you guys talk about Blaston all day, we're never going to have any sort of action calls here. And so already Peter's almost dead in this round. We've hammed it up so much. Peter's is lost without any commentary about the fantastic play by Turbo. But Turbo takes round one, just a round away from securing the series here. And we'll have to see if we do get a Peter's comeback, because now their back is very much against the wall. They need to connect with some of this bounce Viper action. That hammer nade coming out hasn't really done a whole lot of zoning. The Arc Luma hasn't connected, and like you said, there's not really a whole lot of comboing going on, although a big Viper Ellipse does connect. There was one moment of a double Viper, but not quite enough, and yeah, it's just kind of one tool after the next.
Yep, and you can see Turbo really just sitting there waiting for the full combo. Ooh, okay. Okay, maybe I take that back. Maybe that's not the best strategy.
Yeah, how long can you wait?
Exactly. Ooh.
Nice, Luma Arc. Nice job pushing Turbo to the side. Turbo maybe learning the lesson of stepping out of bounds. That has certainly lost them rounds already today, but yeah, it is. Oof.
And these small red bullets going back and forth across the area, they're hard to even see, really. Imagine how hard they are to see in game.
Yeah, this is... Oh, there it is, the hammer nade to the back. Big connection. It looks like that hammer nade swap cap maybe did help Peters just enough. A little bit extra damage there has been done, at least in these last two rounds, to really get Peters an advantage with that hammer nade.
That made the difference, 100%.
Ooh, very nice grab.
Nice Luma Arc to open things up for Peters onto Turbo. They have a nice little lead, and there's Turbo learning the lesson, but now focusing too much on the hammer nade, gets connected by a Luma. A nice combo there from Peters, something we haven't seen a lot of in the rounds that they've lost, and they do manage to kind of throw Turbo off. Good chunk damage down. Their Hurricane forcing them back. The Bounce Viper doesn't quite connect, and good dodging from Peters. There is a Bounce Viper that does connect. Big damage, and Peters just playing a great series here. Game number 4 may go into their hands.
Ooh, all right. That Raptor Ellipse coming out, though.
So dangerous. There are so many threats on Turbo's
Ooh,
side.
Doesn't quite get the grab and puts himself in a bad situation. Oh, man.
We're tied.
So we go to game 5.
Tied.
I
actually winner wins. It goes forward. Loser drops to loser's bracket.
Wow. A great series here. The first one to push us to a game 5, but this one has been a very engaging back and forth. Really not sure who's going to come out on top here in this 5th game. I don't have a solid prediction either way, but this is essentially what you'd expect at this level, right? This is two players that understand the game, really duking it out, really giving it their all, trying to combo, trying different things out, trying different sort of 1-2s, and there's a big 1-2 that lands onto Peters.
Yeah, and you know what? Again, sometimes the most interesting part is not necessarily who makes it in the winner's bracket, but how these players perform in the loser's bracket. And even if, no matter who moves forward, I think it's going to be much more interesting whoever stays back in losers, because they're definitely going to have one heck of a matchup.
A brawl there in round 1 of game 5. Turbo taking huge damage. Peters suffering a tough start, and done before the first minute mark with our first round, and Peters does not kick things off too good here with some big damage connecting for Turbo. I think it was a Luma and some small bullets hitting there that end up getting them a solid start, as Peters now already on the back foot.
Yep, and I think that Turbo realized how much damage they were taking to those Bounce Vipers, and again, just paying attention, making sure to keep his focus on those bounces and try and remove them when he can.
Not too hard to dodge a Luma all on its own.
Yeah.
And not too hard to dodge a Bounce Viper
all
on its own either. But there's a nice combo, a nice grenade denial, and a grenade toss. Yep, that was a good one, too. That was a good setup. That was the distraction Peters needs to be deploying if they want to connect big on these bigger hitters like the Viper Lips, the Bounce, and the Luma, but they don't have a lot of time.
They do not.
Getting chipped away a
Okay,
little
but,
by a
but
little.
they're getting these chips here and there. 10 damage here, 5 damage there, 6 damage.
Oh,
Ooh,
20.
the Luma 20 damage.
One Viper ellipse away from potentially taking the round, and a couple of bullets from getting chipped out, and that is game 5 into the hands of Turbo. Cap, is this what you expected between these two when we were going to jump into this match?
This is what I expected, actually. I was always going to give it to Turbo because Turbo is a really dominant force when he wants to. When he goes turbo mode, as he affectionately puts it, and starts dragging you. But Peters has been known to upset all of the top EU players. He's also someone who, similar to other players, taken a bit of time out of the game and recently come back in. And I felt that, whenever I played him this last season, that's gone. The first thing I thought when I saw that matchup being assigned to me was, has he warmed up enough? Because if he has, this is going to be really scary for me. And it looks like he's warmed up and ready to go. I worry about anyone who has to go against him in losers bracket.
Yeah.
Just trying to get a read on where our next game is taking us. It looks like it's going to be Jay Josie and Arbo. Looking forward there, Oolong. What are you anticipating? Another good
I'm
game?
anticipating
Are we getting 5 games out of this next one, or is it going to be a bit of a blowout?
I hope we are. I don't know. It could be one or the other. It could be really, really close between these two, or it's going to be entirely one side. And I think if it's entirely one sided, it's going to be towards Josie. Josie, I actually don't know too much about. Again, previously known as the player formerly known as the best Blaston player in the world. And he's sort of been in the shadows a little bit, working on his build, working on his skills. He hasn't been too much in the public eye overall. So, this will be my first matchup seeing him in quite a while, and I'll be very interested to see what he brings.
You are sleeping on Josie. He embarrassed me in queue last night. And also the thing about Josie is that we only get to see his strongest performance when it's in a tournament setting like this. I don't think any matches we've seen in VRML season 1 so far have really shown Josie at his height. He saves his strengths for these things. So I think against Arbo he'll bring something fun like Double Vipers because he expects to win.
Well, Cap, the other thing too that I was thinking on that, on the subject of fun, he has brought the Nova Hurricane to every single tournament that he has been in, and now, well, he can't use any of the Nova Hurricane attachments, can he?
No, you can't.
Oh no. Okay, never mind. Forget I said anything.
But just a note on this, Arbo, again, similar to Peters, is a huge upsetter. He's taking games. I think he's beaten Slowed. He's beaten. I want to say Turbo, but I'm not 100% confident on that. The thing to watch out for Arbo is I think he is the best straight Luma player I've ever seen. And I spoke to him about this, and he says it's because he's been playing archery games for about 2 years before he even picked up Blaston. And it's just muscle memories he can get. I don't think I've seen anyone fire Luma shots off as fast as him. So I think he definitely has the option to get a round or two off Josie just by landing 3 Lumas all at once.
Right. Let's go ahead and take a look at the overall bracket here before we get into our next game. We have 3 series knocked out. 24 advancing into round 2, as is Turbo and Kronstar. What that means for our losers is that they are sent down into the losers bracket, where they will have a chance at, well, battling through a long series of games to avoid elimination and a chance at a even better looking banner than the one that they have now. If you can believe it, it's out there. Very excited to see this next matchup, obviously, Jay Josie and Arbo, but we have plenty ahead of us as well. Slowed, Shermie. I think we may have a forfeit from Botto and Trio Tricks. I'm not 100%. Monty Band and Master, and so again, 4 or 5 more games ready to go, and we're already about ready to hop into our next one. I'm going to go ahead and give the players the ready. And what are we seeing on loadouts from both of these players here this afternoon?
Well, Fab was correct. I do see the double Viper with the bounce from Josie, so hit the nail right on the head there. As far as Arbo, also seeing that Luma and Viper Ellipse, which honestly, we've seen that be a pretty solid combo today. One thing I'm surprised that I'm not seeing from Josie's side, the signature hammer clean.
Oh well, he expects to win this, so like against 24, he will bring the signature hammer clap. Don't you worry. Against other players, like if me and Josie play, I predict he will go double Viper against me just because we have fun with that. But a note on this Luma Viper Ellipse thing, it's really because if you shoot a Viper Ellipse, throw it in the air, shoot 3 Lumas, and then catch Viper Ellipse and shoot again, that's 120 damage output in the space of 2 seconds. And I know because I've been running that build for like the last season, and that's why you do it.
Big opener there, Viper Ellipse.
Right off.
Yeah, connecting there, trying to get that bounce Viper off the side, and Luma shots do come in very quick, 1, 2, 3, but it doesn't connect onto Josie and Arbo. Definitely not having a solid start here to things, as I try to open up with a good distraction and hit with that Viper Ellipse on the side, but Josie, with great awareness, does dodge the full onslaught coming at them, and Arbo here has to worry about now the next sort of push. Tries to connect again with the Luma. Can't quite. Again, good footwork from Josie to avoid what is a very persistent sort of attack from Arbo.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's honestly, the fact that Arbo's managed to get damage on Josie is fairly surprising. One thing I didn't even think, it didn't even register with me until he started firing it. He is actually using the Raptor 3, which is that splitting pistol bullet. Very interesting to see that, since it's gonna cut his reload time or the time between shots down significantly.
Finally, some good damage onto Josie there, managing to connect, but not with the big hitters. The Luma doesn't connect, and the Viper Ellipse doesn't connect. Those are going to be the ones for Arbo that are really going to chunk things down, and Arbo does a great job of denying that Viper Ellipse from connecting by tossing out one of their spent guns, and almost connects with the Luma there, but again, good footwork from Josie.
Yeah, and Josie really, really good with those Raptor Ellipse shots too, but gets hit with a giant Viper Ellipse, and it's pretty much gonna bring it even in the last 20 seconds.
That is the beauty of these Vipers. You're never out of a game until you're out of a game, and they try to connect with the Lumas, going and committing for that final Luma hit to land, but they end up taking damage in their pursuit, and Josie does take round 1, but just barely. Arbo here looking for a fight.
Yeah, really Arbo looking for a fight. And again, just not giving up, you know? You can take a huge amount of damage, and we saw it with Kronster, too. You can take a huge amount of damage and still be very much in this. Oh, getting a big Viper Ellipse shot on Josie.
Very nice job there. Again, the Luma's not hitting. Josie doing a good job of prioritizing dodging those, but, well, we'll have to see if with a double Viper coming in here. Good dodge work from Arbos, avoiding the bounce, avoiding the ellipse, really stepping up here in the second round.
And Josie doing that sort of push while Arbo was trying to set up his combo actually really disrupted him, so he wasn't able to really get the prime setup that he wanted to see there.
Out is dodged again. We haven't seen one of those Lumas land yet from Arbo, but they certainly would like one, I'm sure. The Wildcat does some good work, chips Josie down a little bit further, but again, with a double Viper in particular, we're just really seconds away from Arbos being out of this one and Josie taking round 2.
Yeah, well, I don't know. 50 seconds left on the clock, and although I have full confidence that Josie can go ahead and close this gap right there, I don't think we should underestimate Arbo. Like I said, they're pretty deadly when that bow hits.
Yep.
Yeah, if Arbo just slowed down by a few seconds and, you know, waited for his Luma to spawn after doing the combo or after before throwing his nade, I think he could do a bit more effective damage here.
Taking a bounce Viper there and a Raptor Ellipse next. That's 45 damage, and then a final Viper Ellipse to catch them dodging to the floor. Josie maybe predicting that move or not, but they take game 1 in very solid fashion. A good opening at the very least for Josie, and I wonder if we're going to see any loadout swapping. It's not likely to, I would imagine, come in from Josie, considering they just won 2 rounds, but curious if Arbo feels the need to swap anything.
Arbo won't want to get Josie off this. This is probably the closest he's thought he'd get to beating Josie. If he puts Josie onto a more defensive loadout where he can stay at the back, it means that Arbo and have more shields. It means that Arbo's actually a disadvantage compared to now.
go into game number 2, as one has already been in the books for Josie. And yeah, we'll see what Arbo can put together here. They certainly did get close in that last round to taking one, but couldn't quite string it together. And as long as we don't get a loadout swap, I mean, obviously, without a lobby reset, there's no loadout changing here. And so, like you said, Cap, it is maybe the best chance Arbo will have of getting a point. And out the gate, they are certainly looking good. They've managed to chunk down Josie nicely to at least maintain a lead. They do take a bit of damage there.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can see Josie is playing definitely a little bit slower, still waiting for his weapons to come off cooldown. And I think he's really looking to close this gap all at once. I don't think he wants to mess around with doing little chips of damage over time. It's all or nothing from him.
Yeah, I mean, the double Viper Luma is certainly an indicator.
Yep, that double Viper with the nade setup.
Yeah, that's what I meant. The double Viper with the nade. It is a very solid bit of 1-2, and really, I mean, there's so much coming at you. It's so hard to avoid. Arbo now finds themselves at a disadvantage of all things and tries to go for a 1-2, but that puts them into more damage than good.
Right. Woohoo! Oh, he tries to do it behind the back. Classic Josie.
Trying to get fancy on it now as they start to feel more and more confident in their
nice
performance.
Catch.
Luma dodged again. And I'm not sure what the real ticket would be to get that Luma to connect, but maybe threading it in between some hammer ellipses would go, I would think would be the right choice. And you can see that's what they were going for, but Josie shuts it down. Round 1 into their hands, and potentially game 2 if they can get this next one. Nice opening for Arbo, managing to do some good damage with that Wildcat.
Yeah. Ooh, and it gets dealt right back to him.
Yeah, sure it does.
Honestly, I think it's kind of hard to notice because it comes out so quick along with so much else, but outside of the Viper Ellipse, that Raptor Ellipse doing 10 damage a shot. If Josie's able to land 2 of those, it's the equivalent of one of those Luma shots. So, you know, especially combining it with the bursting Raptor, that's a pretty good combo.
Yeah, it's again, like you said, something we haven't really seen much of. At least I haven't in league play. That bursting Raptor. But with this new update, a big goodbye.
Pure intimidation.
Yeah, with this new update, we're seeing a couple of new things kind of come to the forefront in terms of players picking them. But Luma does hit there. It gets Arbos a little bit back into this one, but they are really just a couple of bullets away from going down. Obviously an ellipse away from being knocked out, and Josie is juggling the ellipse, trying to really throw off Arbo in terms of where that bullet's going to come out from.
Yeah. Yeah, I also think it's interesting that he's sort of leaving that the bouncing Viper on cooldown so that he doesn't have to have it affect the rest of his build. Really focusing again on mostly using that Viper Ellipse and using the Raptor combo.
Ooh. Nice, Luma connects there. Josie close to that being knocked out, but obviously Arbo on their very last leg, just a bullet away. They do a good job of shielding there. They try and hit with a Luma. That would have put them back into things. Any one of these bullets connecting. Oh, Arbo has 1 HP left, doing a good job of dodging.
God, weapon throw.
Redirects the nade. 8 seconds left, trying to connect with Lumas here. Either one would set them apart. Good dodge work from Arbo.
Oh, he's got
still
the
alive.
Does he see it? Oh! Oh, in the last seconds.
You can see there a little bit of a maybe a
just
reset.
Rolling on the ground.
Yeah, Arbo with a mental, maybe a scream onto the ground. Who knows what that was? But sorry for that. Wrong. There. Either way, a interesting 2 rounds. I mean, what are we seeing here? A loadout swap, not likely from Josie. I would anticipate this to be coming in from Arbo.
Maybe, yeah. I would definitely say it's coming in from Arbo. Usually, too, if you're like winning, you know, it's an official, unofficial rule. If you're winning, then you're not the one to initiate the weapon swap. But if your opponent goes, then you can totally swap out your loadout, no questions asked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know necessarily if Arbo's just gonna go and try and make a change on his build in order to counter Josie, or to try and have some fun with this last matchup here, because he's getting pretty close during all of these rounds. I mean, you know, listen, Josie is still one of the best Blaston players in the world, if not the best Blaston player in the world. The fact that he keeps getting him down to red is nothing short of impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, it has been a good series. I mean, Cap, your thoughts on these 2 games that have gone the way of Josie?
I think that it's not a surprise they've gone the way of Josie. I think it is a surprise how close they've been. I think Arbo has played really, really well. The thing is, Arbo's a fairly new player, and I think that he has the potential to be one of the best. Just with that dodging in that last round when he was on like 1 HP. I don't know pretty much anyone who can dodge that well against JJ. I know I can't. And what you see is every round, even though he's losing, he's always playing to win conditions. Like when there was a grenade, like a hammer nade detonating behind him, and he was in very low HP, and Josie was also in the red. He just picked up his weapons, went to the front of his podium, and tried to hit it because that was the only way he was going to win. Dodging that hammer nade isn't going to affect, you know, whether he wins or loses the game, because either he dodges it and then loses because Josie's slightly ahead, or he gets hit by it and dies. The only way he wins that is by going to the front and landing something on Josie, which is what he does. And I know that sounds like a small, like obvious thing, but when you've got a split second to make that choice,
it
shows a good level of play and a good level of strategic expertise from Arbo. And yeah, Arbo has hurt the top European players many times. Really hurts me in queue, actually. It beats me a lot. And it's great to see. Oh yeah, so you said Josie was.
I see my favorite weapon.
Josie's
my new favorite
weapon.
I should say.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, Josie is coming out with a triple nade Tundra combo. The oops all DPS.
Yeah, this was interesting. We'll see if it's enough. Throw off that. I gotta give the go ahead. Sorry, and a chance to look at our brackets while we do.
Real fast, just to dive a little bit into Tundra lore for everybody. So Tundra is very, very similar to the Luma, which is that bow. Both are on a 4-second cooldown. Both are doing roughly. Luma actually does 20 damage. Tundra does 25 damage. However, the difference with the Tundra is that when you fire it, there is a sound effect it takes a little bit of time from you holding down the trigger to when it actually fires. And there's a very noticeable sound effect that plays. However, the Tundra will also apply a blind when it hits your opponent. Very similar to the Frostbite, which is that snowball that we saw, I think, during game 1. But the reload speed is essentially the same as the Luma. So, you know, the mind games that Josie can play here, and he's already coming out with them a little bit. The mind games that he can play here with pulling the trigger and triggering that sound effect without firing the weapon. And then also the ability to fire off, 75 damage at once.
Yeah, and they're doing a nice job of zoning here with that Majestic nade, really kind of forcing Arbos into what is then a good Tundra Viper Ellipse combo, and that is what got Josie the damage they did onto Arbos. But Arbos doing a good job of battling back here, and maybe the attempt at Josie trying to set all this up is kind of forcing them to be a little bit more distracted than they were in their previous loadout. Arbos is able to hit a couple more shots than they have in the past, and you can see Josie trying to shut down that nade. Can't quite. Still, though, pretty dang close here, as Josie has managed to chunk down Arbos a little bit.
Yeah. Ooh, oh, no! I was going to say it just passes over its head, but no, he manages to stand up right into it.
You could tell the intention that whole time for Josie was to push them into the corner and have that nade drift over into them and connect. Really good work from Josie.
I thought that hit for a second. Oh,
yeah,
gosh,
almost did, but a good shutdown there. Nice regrab, redirect from Arbos, and here comes the press. Arbos not able to connect, and they end up taking a big chunk themselves.
Oh, managing to land that Nova nade.
Tundra's also coming in real close, too. Arbos has to prioritize dodging these big hitters, but there's so many little, tricks and behind the back sort of moves they have to watch for. The nades, where they're coming from, they come in low, high. It's an interesting sort of dynamic that Josie has thrown
he's
at
gonna
them,
juggle him. He's gonna juggle him. Ooh, okay. Oh, man. I actually was That was fair.
That was.
Oh no!
I'm,
Stops the juggle.
I'm impressed that Josie didn't hit that Viper Ellipse, considering
Now he's
they
trying to show off. Now he's just trying to show off.
double in the Luma too. No, they're not gonna go. They're not gonna go that crazy. Trying to again hit with one final Viper Ellipse to take them off, and there it is. They just needed one. Arbos gets hit, and in a pretty quick 6 rounds,
Yeah.
Josie takes their series 3-0. Not unexpected, Cap. Kind of maybe what was in your mind and Oolong's at least before when we jumped in here.
No, it's not unexpected, but I think that firstly, just shout out to Josie. The problem with Josie's, I think for Josie, is that he's been so long #1 world champion that everyone expects him to win. So whenever someone goes against him, and even though they lose 6 rounds just surprisingly well, everyone immediately starts talking about how great they were rather than Josie. And I'm about to do that with Arbo, but just shout out, it's only because Josie's dominant force in Blaston. But with all that said, Arbo played really, really well, and a lot of us have been saying that Arbo is an incredibly strong competitor, and I think he showed that today just by getting. He didn't take a single round of Josie, but he got really close a number of times, and he demonstrated his strength. So well done to both players. I think they did really, really well.
Yeah, an exciting battle, and now we get to our back half of the games this afternoon. I think we only have 3 left because, again, I think there is a forfeit, I believe, Trio having some personal stuff they have to deal with. So maybe we'll see them in the losers bracket tomorrow. Who knows? But again, we have Slow Eat Shermie. I think, Cap, are you last? Is your game last, or is it after Slow Eat? Because maybe you got to start getting ready. You got to start getting warmed up here soon.
I think I'm going to jump off and start getting ready, but I think it's going to be last because we're really ahead of schedule. I was expecting my game to be in around 1.5 to 2 hours time. But that doesn't look to be the case, and really it's because my opponent is still asleep, so it could very well be we actually have quite an incredibly large break at the end of the day just to wait for him to wake up. With that said, though, I think this is probably where I'm going to jump off stream and start practicing and hyperventilating and freaking out in the mirror. So.
Well, we have a little bit of a break coming up here, so don't leave quite yet. We'll have you depart once we're fully ready. But do not go anywhere. We do have more games up ahead of us. Again, just a quick look at the bracket. You can see that we have Slow Eat Shermie up, Captain Fabulous, Tim611, and Monty Band and Master 17 all on the docket here for this afternoon. So be sure to stick around for more VRML action. We are not going anywhere. We have, again, a bunch of games left here this afternoon. We have games tomorrow, and then we have games next weekend. It is Blaston weekend, baby. Stick around. More of it coming at you in a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for patiently waiting while we took a brief break. You know, if anything, we need one here on the desk, Oolong. That was a good solid hour and 15 of pure blast-on action, and I needed a breather. But I'm recharged and ready to get back into it for our back half of today, and we're up for a couple of interesting games. I mean, obviously, we get to see Captain Fabulous playing soon enough, who is just here on the desk. We can give them a hard time. That's going to be exciting. Up next is Sloweed versus Shermie. A mod that we can give a hard time. That's going to be exciting. I mean, back-to-back mods actually showing themselves with Sloweed and Cap. And then obviously Monty Ban and Master, another matchup that we'll be tuning into here, and that'll round out the day. So a couple of good, solid, interesting matchups here to come up ahead of us here. And we are ready to get into the Shermie and Sloweed battle. I'm going to go ahead and give the players the ready. What are we seeing on loadouts? Anything that's sparking joy? Let's say.
Yeah, sparking joy. Well, Shermie's been rolling with a fairly consistent loadout throughout most of VRML, and I actually think that we're seeing a change here. A Majestic Nade, Fast Fall, Hurricane, and a Curved Luma coming out from Shermie. Excuse me. And then on Sloweed side, I mean, fairly standard stuff: Charge Hammer, Fast Hammer Nade, and Fast Fall Hurricane, and the straight Luma. So we're really seeing a lot of that Luma today, aren't we?
Yeah, it's the straight Luma in particular.
Yeah.
Something that's kind of coming out of, I would say, nowhere, but interesting to see it utilized so much. It really has been the Luma arc that we've been seeing, or the Luma Ellipse, excuse me, that we've been seeing really kind of as the main staple, so to speak. But the Fast Fall Hurricane also kind of a pickup that's become mainstream with 118. What's the deal there? Just does more damage, a little bit more consistent on the pace?
And again, you know, with how most of the builds were going, especially prior to this most recent patch, it was a lot of, hey, get a lot of really slow projectiles on your opponent's field, basically punish them for dodging, and then throw something like a Viper or a Luma or a Tundra at them that forces them to then move. Now I think it's a lot more focus on, you know, quickly activating a lot of projectiles, going in with that fast Wildcat, which you guys probably wouldn't have even known if you haven't played Blaston before, but there's actually an attachment that has been run on every single Wildcat that we've seen today. But also, you know, it also makes it better when you're firing straight forward, which actually Sloweed goes ahead and does right at the start of the match. Which overall, I mean, just free damage, a quicker activation, and the only downside is that, you know, it doesn't spend nearly as much time on your opponent's play area, but again, that's a lot less of a focus nowadays.
Shermie getting chunked down huge here to start, and you know, I never noticed the similarities in the builds until we had the start where they literally almost opened up the exact same way. Hurricanes into the Luma, the Hammer Ellipse on the side. It's really a interesting sort of 1-2 combo they're trying to get set up here, and it's all a matter of managing those cooldowns, managing those ellipses.
Nice Raptor Ellipse work there.
Yeah, big. I mean, that Raptor Ellipse does huge damage.
Yeah. It's funny too because it used to be that both the Raptor Ellipse and the Raptor both did 10 damage, and both had 5 ammunition. Whoa!
Wow.
That was a lot of hurricanes! Oh, no!
Seconds in, and Sloweed almost goes down. Shermie's suffering from the Wildcat, though, as they dodge that Hammer Nade. A really nice setup from Sloweed to really put up a wall and then thread the needle.
Oh,
and there's
my
the
goodness.
Luma. The straight Luma connecting on top of everything else that they threw at them. A great combo from Sloweed. They're going to take a game right out the gate. Do we get a loadout swap?
No,
we
we're
do
going
not.
right into the next one, too. Yeah. You know, just it's a term that you steal from fighting games when talking about Blaston, but you know, talking about breakpoints with the Raptor Ellipse, since you have at the start of the game 100 health, you know, the Raptor Ellipse doing exactly 10 damage makes it very, very attractive. Since, you know, obviously 100 can be broken down into segments of 10, and you know, especially with a lot of weapons that do 20 damage, 30 damage. Doing 10 damage is actually really, really good compared to 8 or, you know, even the 14 that the Fast Fall Hurricane.
Yeah, I think we had a little bit of a misstep there. Sloweed seemed to throw a nade off to the side. I don't think they intended that. It almost caught themselves off guard, but here comes the attack, the setup, the Hammer, the Luma, all dodge. Great work from Shermie there to avoid that initial attack there, and we'll have to see if the Hurricane can do anything for Sloweed here. Shermie's looking good this round.
Got close. They managed to get around most of it.
Bit of a botch nade there. That Majestic kind of floating out in the middle, not doing a whole lot of zoning. They could have certainly used it.
Yeah. Well, and the Majestic nade is the shortest cooldown nade. So, we were kind of talking about it earlier. Nades just acting as distraction rather than as strip damage. And just constantly keeping a little bit of pressure on with that Majestic nade can be really good. And the weapon throws are going to do it this time around.
Yep, Slowy was close. Slowy was close enough. And I was worried for a second Shermy was going to get hit by some of those hurricanes coming in from the backside, but they do a good enough job of paying attention to them. It's so interesting. You're playing X, Y, and Z access. You have to pay attention to it all times. You know what I mean? It's so impressive to see at this level how cognizant they are of, okay, these hurricanes are going in this arc. That's going to hit to the back of my zone. I'm going to make sure I don't step to the back. Shermy, whoa! Did they go out of bounds there? Something happened. They got hit hard.
Yeah, speaking of stepping to the back. But yeah, I mean, and that's also the hardest thing to really express. I mean, obviously, a lot of the people watching this are I believe, played most of the other games that, VRML hosts events for. But, that's the hardest thing to express to people when you're talking about these sort of VR esports, is that it really is a completely different game. It's not like you're watching a screen. You really have to pay attention to everything in 360 degrees.
It's the beauty of what VR can do to gaming, and it certainly is the ultimate dodgeball experience, so to speak, as we do get into our next round, our final round of game number 2. The winner here takes the game. Shermy certainly would like one against Slowy, I could tell you that, but Slowy has been a good job of at least locking in some very good aggression early into these rounds. Right now, obviously, opening up here in the first 30 seconds with a nice chunk of damage and avoiding the full onslaught from Shermy. But Shermy, look at this. They are waiting for everything to come up again.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, man.
Ooh.
Oh, man.
Ooh.
Those Raptor ellipses, again, just chunking Shermy down.
Oh, an interesting way of denying the hurricanes there from Slowy. They shoot their hurricane at the enemies. Prioritization there of doing damage versus shutting it down, and big damage there from Shermy. The Luma's hitting. I think one of the hurricanes connected in the back. They dodged the full onslaught from Slowy, and Shermy here staying in this one. Back half of round 3.
Yep.
Oh, I spoke too
Wildcat's
soon.
gonna go ahead and push him over into the hurricanes.
I spoke too soon, and Slowy has taken game number 2. Shermy, I would be surprised to see that they swap anything here, that we go into a loadout swap. Maybe Slowy would do something like that, but I don't know. They've won 2 games here, so why not stick with what is working for you? It's a big debate, and I think they're debating that right now between the two of them.
I think he's gonna go into the next one. I really do. Just based off his finger movement, to be quite honest with you.
You know what menu option.
Like, come on.
Yep. You know what option they're selecting.
Exactly.
And, yeah, it is a rematch. We are into our 3rd game. Slowy has taken 2, albeit barely, in that 3rd game, and Shermy wants revenge. They want to string together this loadout. They want it to work like it has for a couple of these rounds, and it's such a challenge. It's the beauty of this game, right? Is that there's no guarantees. You kind of get that it's different every time, and well, let's see. That's
he
a
throws out the wrong nade.
Yeah. Oh, and suffers for it.
Oh no! Huge Luma play there.
Yeah, Slowy was comfortable enough to really set everything up, and Shermy gets the full spread and the Lumas. They now stand a round away from getting knocked down into the losers bracket.
Down to the losers lounge.
Yeah, a lounge. It's a cool place to be still.
It's exactly. I firmly believe, after all my tournament experience, that the best matches aren't the finals, aren't the grand finals where you see the best players playing. It is in losers lounge, round 1 and 2, where the things are pretty even, actually, and there's an added sense of desperation.
We're not there yet, obviously, but still, advancing here does get you one step closer.
I'm just trying to sell everybody on tomorrow's stream, so be sure that you're following this page so you're notified when we go live.
Shermy coming back here, connects with the Hurricane and some Lumas. But yes, do follow this Twitch channel. Follow the Facebook, the YouTube, wherever you're enjoying the action. Make sure you're
TikTok.
The venues. Yeah, we are everywhere. Enjoy Blaston. It's everywhere.
Yep. Ooh, all right, pushing him into the corner.
So
They managed to
close.
get out with a sliver of health.
So close. They have enough time to really do anything and set something up here. Can they dodge enough to try and chip away? Here come the Raptor ellipses. Those would have been big if any of those had connected, but Slowy does a great job of dodging that onslaught. More hurricanes, but now the attack and wow.
The entire nade pops on Shermie. They only needed the first hit, but the entire thing pops.
Oh, apologies.
wow.
Cam's not being set up there, but that is a quick 3-0. The mod in charge certainly comes in, delivers, but what an exciting matchup nonetheless. You know, we did get down to a couple of rounds one there, and the back and forth was good. I just don't think the Majestic nade ended up doing a whole lot for Shermie at the end of the day.
Yeah, and again, the Majestic nade is usually run specifically for its cooldown. 3 seconds versus most nades are actually 5 seconds, and then there's a couple nades that sit at 4 seconds on their cooldown. So again, just that flexibility, but also, you know, it requires you getting the closest to your opponent. It's also the only nade that doesn't travel at basically an unlimited distance like all the other nades do. So you really have to position it within grabbing reach of your opponent. That can be a good thing if you're using it to bait, and you know, when it doesn't get baited, using it for the zoning. And it can be a bad thing because, again, a lot of the times it ends up useless, especially if you're getting that pressure and you don't throw it out at all because you just forget about it. You know, and we saw that a couple of times from Shermie where that, you know, Majestic ended up just sitting on their side of the play area. I also want to say, you know, I really love, you know, I was talking earlier about how all this competitive play has brought a lot of newer players into the limelight. But also, you know, Sloat's been around forever. And I would say Sloat and Captain Fabulous have really both stepped up their gameplay this year and have really just jumped up the ranks as far as, you know, the power rankings go. So it's super awesome to see them here in these finals.
This is, you know, it's interesting. Let's compare mentally, Yulong, right? Let's think back and recollect the start of the tournament. You know, the very first event we ran. I don't really think we were getting this kind of level of competition. You know, obviously it was good, but here I just feel there's more nuance. I feel there's more chess work going on between these players.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I honestly, you can't attribute all of that to season play. Season play combined with the update, and everyone's still kind of working out what worked and what didn't, and what the powerful builds were and what wasn't. Plus the fact that, you know, most of it was getting streamed. You know, that sort of feedback loop where players are watching other players, seeing how they play, factoring that back into their builds, and then bringing that into their matches, which other people see. You know, that sort of feedback loop of professionalism really just pushes a play like this along. And I mean, we've had a really solid kind of defined meta for the past year. And even though these players have only been on this new patch, and given they aren't using any of the new content of the patch, but, you know, still huge. So, you know, huge jumps in skill from pretty much everyone who participated in VRML. And hey, just saying, as a person who runs tournaments myself, I love the setup that we had where, you know, basically same team setup, but everyone was on their own team and the ability to schedule their own matches. Yeah. You know, it was probably the best extended league that I have seen run. And I was really glad to be a part of it too. So, you know, keep your eyes out next time for season 2 of Blast on VRML as well. Absolutely. You could be here in these finals with these fancy banners.
Yeah, I mean, the banners, they're competing for the points. There's a prize pool to be had. I mean, I think it's something like 1,100 in cash or something like that. On top of that, some hardware coming in from our fantastic sponsor, HyperX. Also, obviously, providing us with some good, high-quality Quadcast S voice to your ears. So a shout-out to them as a sponsor. We do appreciate them. And, yeah, like you said, I mean, there's so much Blaston coming up. Again, a big shout out to the Resolution Games team for what they've been doing. The championship series is going to be very exciting. That's going to help evolve the meta even more. You know, that's going to help encourage regular gameplay. And then, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to season 2 whenever that does come down. But there's just obviously the finals here, which I'm looking forward to. But then there's just so much. The championship.
We're keeping it right in front of us.
Yeah, there's so much to be had ahead of us, and so I think our next game, as we've been buying time here, is going to be Monty Ban and Master
17. Yeah,
I think we're just waiting for I believe Monty kind of give the go ahead that they are around and ready to go. But Either way, we do appreciate you all for stopping by and hanging out and enjoying the action here. Whether you're on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, or venues.
Oh yeah, venue, yeah.
We do really appreciate you. Go grab. I mean, if you got, while we have some downtime, grab the headset, get into venues. Yeah. It's a really cool space to like enjoy and socialize and watch these games. And I'm sure there's a couple of folks in there that are enjoying watching this on a much bigger screen than they would be able to at home, because it is a really cool experience. And a big shout out to the venues team for working with us and allowing us to put out a couple of good games there. And it does look like we are ready now. We stalled enough, Oolong. We bought enough time.
Yeah, and honestly, I love Facebook venues, and I do think that a future state of that is probably going to look like you being right inside the game, which just the concept of that is crazy. So, I know that a lot of venues is, scheduled events, and people may have popped in for one or two things and, not really stuck around. But seriously, if you've never watched a match in that environment, go try it out today. I mean, we're going to have, this weekend and next weekend streaming live to venues. And yeah, huge shout out to all the people who are in there. I'll probably try and cast from in there at least once or twice.
Yeah. We'll have to get you. I mean, it's not that. Yeah, we just got to get you in the headset on and into the lobbies. Exactly. But we are looking at, again, Monty Ban. Ooh, I got to set the teams right. Shame on me. Let's reset the scores and set the teams. Monty Ban on blue, Master in purple. Anything on the loadouts that's surprising you? It looks pretty standard.
Yeah, it looks pretty standard. The one thing I will say is actually something that I said last time too. And actually something that Master reached out to me and said thanks for letting him know about. Master 17 is a bit of a mental player. When they're on top, they get that tempo, they are just on it. But when they start falling behind, it can get to their head a little bit more than other players. So that's definitely going to factor into this match, and also, how exactly my commentary is going to work, because definitely social play comes in a lot more with virtual reality games like this. Heck, just being able to see people's body language. Yeah,
and I mean, already we've seen a lot of stretching at the start of rounds, and getting loose and limber. You can tell these players. I mean, look at the physicality of it. There's so much squatting, ducking, diving, jumping in some cases. Throwing the nades. There's a lot to this game that comes in that ends up being very physical. And so, at the end of these series, these players are sweating. And so I think at this stage, they're probably thankful they only have to play one game today. But regardless, game one here is certainly opening up nicely between Monty and Master. And this is looking like it's going to be a pretty good back and forth, if this is any indicator to kick things off.
Yeah, I think this actually... Ooh, okay, there we go. We're seeing a lot of damage coming out on Master 17 there. This might be our most by-the-books game that we see today. Just because the hammer ellipse combos combined with going in with the raptor ellipse and the wildcat, that's fairly standard. That's what we've seen for a lot of the season. So very similar execution from these two. Very similar builds, very similar ideas. It's gonna matter the execution differences.
Yeah, the double Viper, something we've been seeing already today as well, and so not out of the ordinary. A nice bit of damage there. The Wildcat doing some work on the Monty. Obviously, the setup going a long way in terms of zoning them into a spot where Master could connect with that, but or more Monty, excuse me, could connect with that. But either way, Master is still in this. Not too much damage done. The clock is ticking, though, and that could be an element here. We haven't really seen a player win off of time yet, I don't think. It's certainly come close, but this could be our first round. Master's still alive. Monty still has some HP, and
gets it right at the end of the round, and Monty's gonna go ahead and take it.
You tell me, was it time or damage? I don't know.
It was actually health. It was actually health.
Okay.
Yeah, you count down that last second too. So very slightly, but did actually manage to get it.
Wow. The last attack. That's the beauty of the game like this. It really can't. You can't have teams that are even down to those final 5 seconds, and then something can pop off. You're never certain, even down to those final moments, if there's a HP on the bar who is going to win. And yeah, it's just a good exchange, a nice bit of a battling. Both of these players really going at it, trying to throw out the nades, trying to dodge at the same time, disrupt each other's offensive pushes, and Monty just connects nicely, gets back into the lead.
Yeah. Yeah, and we here on the caster's desk, we have the luxury of not having to play the actual game.
Yeah.
So all these technical things that we're talking about, you got to add in the factor that when you're tired, it's not like you can go ahead and calculate where all these bullets are. You got to go off a lot of feel. So, you know, we might be talking in this hyper-technical sense, but know that once you're in the actual arena, once you're in the Warhouse, things become a lot different.
Yeah, it is. It's fun to watch. You know, obviously, when we've seen throughout the course of this season the despair. You know, that skill gap between a brand new player and a veteran, and there's just a lot to learn in a game like this. And I think that's what makes it so fun competitively, and it's why this league has done has been, I think, has been, to your point, been as successful as it has been, because the game itself certainly fits well for consistent and methodical play every day. So.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say that's the key difference between a normal esport and these VR esports, is that, you know, with normal esports, it is a lot of calculated and perfect plays and finding the right moment. Here, you still have that, but, you know, you also got to worry about your actual stamina. This is a workout.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, for these game 5s in particular, those are the ones that you're really getting burnt out on. The full 2-minute rounds that you're playing out, that's definitely burning out the stamina. And Monty is going to take game 1 out the gate here. We are going to go into a loadout swap as well, so we'll have to see where that takes us. But I mean, so honestly, you know, to have to play a full 2 minutes of a round, that's also something that's going to burn that stamina down.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the more tired you get, the less brain power you're actually going to have. But also, like, you know, if you're going to drop to the ground in order to dodge something, that might be really easy game 1. Come game 5, you're going to feel a lot different having to squat for the, you know, 150th time today. And that is an actual value that I got from a 20-minute gaming session, just playing in queue normally. So that's like a normal Thursday evening for me, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think as far as that last match went, it was very similar from both sides. Both of the players had a very similar end goal with their build of, you know, do chip damage over time. And that's why we saw a lot of those matches go all the way to the 2-minute mark. Yeah. I would be very surprised if Master 17 specifically didn't change up his strategy.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, there's so many, really, truly, so many options. Just based off of the loadouts, the variety we saw. I mean, I don't know. I felt like I saw a true, real. I know there's obviously metas out there, but I saw a real variety in the wild card. You know, we saw bounce novas coming in to great effect. You know, that drill nade coming in to great effect. You know, it's kind of a guessing. It's real, and I think that's like the beauty of where we're at right now, even with this tournament for these players, is it really is like anybody's guess. Like, what are you going to go into? What am I going to have to counter? What am I going to have to adapt to? And we just end up getting kind of a nice variety between series, between players, and even between rounds. And so I am curious to see what kind of switch up we do get.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, going even further with that, the fact that now it's okay, not just a matter of the weapon, but the weapon attachment. You know, it's not like you can run 2 of the same weapon attachment, but you can run 2 very similar weapons that may fill the same function in your build. Right. So just again, Resolution really with these last 2 updates and with the, you know, the further updates, they have promised that the rest of the weapons are going to get some attachments, and some weapons are actually, I believe, going to get reworked. But, you know, just keeping things fresh, really giving the players the options to, you know, hey, build how you want, build the build that you want to play. And, you know, based off of that, your objective might be to, you know, really just swarm your opponent with bullets and make it a classic bullet hell. Your strategy might be to, you know, get these high value shots every once in a while in order to really take out your opponent quickly. Your build might be just to set up a bunch of bouncing things and really distract your opponent.
Yeah.
So really awesome. I love Resolution. I've at this point started playing pretty much every single one of their other games. I played Blaston first. And again, it continues to astound me the flexibility that players have. And actually, speaking of which, we're seeing something here that came out in the wild card, which is that Vandal. So that's going to be the sniper looking thing on Master 17 side. That is going to not do any damage at all. Instead, it is going to just do collision. So again, it's going to do all of its damage to projectiles, not any damage to Monty itself.
Let's see what Monty can do here going in to game number 2. They've taken game 1, Master on the back foot. We'll have to see if that Vandal is enough of a shakeup to blind and disrupt Monty's efforts, but so far it hasn't come into play yet.
Yep. Oh, okay. He manages to hold on to that nade. So again, that's going to be really Master's main purpose for bringing out the Vandal here, is to really shut down the hammer nade, making sure that doesn't even make it to his side of the podium. But again, that's another thing right there that you can see. If it isn't of use to him, he can still just leave it and not grab it at all, and it won't affect the overall cooldown of his build.
Yeah, and if anything, they can leave it. I mean, we haven't talked about this ever. They can leave it to the back behind them, where it's more of an inconvenience to pick, which will force the other more prioritized weapons to spawn closer to them. But either way, Master taking big chunks there, and see if they can set something up with their hammers and maybe get that Viper Ellipse, which is there available to connect. And oh, what a great shield from Monty. Monty just really being present and aware of where this damage is coming from.
Yep. And that is kind of how it is with bullet hell. If you can find the hole, or if you can make the hole and just kind of stay there and weather out the storm, it can be pretty hard to even land a hit on you, especially because after you get off your big combo, it's gonna be like 20 seconds before you get it back.
That Raptor Ellipse doing some good work, and it's interesting to see the Raptor Ellipse combo come out. They definitely have tried to throw that 1-2 at Master, and Master doing a good job utilizing the Vandal there, but not quite able to dodge the Wildcat. Monty takes another round, and I mean, I wonder if Master's maybe second-guessing taking the Vandal at this stage, because they're just not quite doing enough damage to Monty.
Yeah, the Vandal is one of those weapons where it can be fantastic as a counter pick option, specifically against weapons that have a lot of health. So, you know, Nova is what comes to mind, those big, beautiful orbs. But also, we didn't see it at all today, but the bunker shield, and really all shields, it can pretty much eliminate them with one shot. Plus, you know, using them against nades is really what Master is going to try and get here. But, you know, if you don't see that, if your opponent isn't running a whole bunch of nades or is only running a 3-second shield, you know, it actually can slow you down more.
Finally, they connect. Master does get the advantage in HP as they land one of their Vandal Ellipses, Viper Ellipses. They end up taking a good chunk themselves there, trying to dodge the full spread from Monty, and Monty really just doing a good job on the offense, being very patient, waiting for their full loadout to come in before that bullet spread comes in, and they almost know which gun's going to come in at what time. You know, they really have almost the understanding of all their cooldowns even too. You can see they're reaching holding the nade, reaching for what is going to be the hammer, because they know the hammer's up next. Like, it's just there's a lot of knowledge about this loadout coming in here.
Yep. Yeah, and there's a lot of cycling too. You want to, again, this kind of comes in when you think about your combos. You really want to wait for the stuff to come off of cooldown. That way you can get it all at once. But if you know what order your weapons are going to spawn in, which is sort of a dark art, but if you can know what order your weapons are going to spawn in, you can start that combo and have stuff spawn halfway through.
Really, again, a lot of a skill gap to be had here in this game, and it's stuff like that you really don't learn until you're very deep into the nature of Blaston. But either way, a good battle here. Master has done some damage to Monty, but hasn't been able to really connect into the back half of this round. Time is ticking down, and it is actually going to be the determining factor.
Yeah, and again, Master 17, this is really, I mean, if I were a betting man, this is definitely where I wouldn't want to see Master 17. Again, he does the best when he's already winning, not when he is having to make a comeback like this. But who knows? Monty's getting tired. I'm sure that Master's getting tired as well, so that could change how they play.
Yeah, there's so much focus that has to go into something like this, and into our third game now. Definitely a test of that stamina. Good deny. I mean, that Vandal has been shutting down that nade. He's shooting it literally out of the hand of Monty before it even does anything, you know, really denying that from spreading around. And it has come down to, like you said, that Vandal, it's just the nature of playing it just right. That if they do, then it looks, oh, that is effective.
Yeah, exactly. And again, sometimes I really think what he was expecting here was he was expecting health node. And then that would have made this selection excellent. but he's kind of having to deal with what he has now. The only other thing I think he could use it for is when his combo is starting to come in and Monty is about to pop his shield. If he times it correct, ooh, nice Viper ellipse shot there. If he manages to time it correctly, he could get rid of the shield and blind Monty right as all of the damage is coming in.
Doesn't deny the hammer nade there, and let's see if that Vandal does get used to blind, because here comes those hammer nade shots, and instead kind of using it to try and shut down the spread. Does disrupt it a little bit, but they really need some damage here, and I do like the attempt that Master throws out with either the Raptor ellipse or the Wildcat and combining it with the Viper ellipse. It's a nice sort of way of zoning and then also trying to throw that ellipse in there, but obviously hard to hit with 2 guns at the same time, you know?
Yeah,
and so
exactly, especially with your non-dominant hand as well. I mean, if you think that those Raptor ellipse shots are hard to see here on the stream, you know, imagine trying to, you know, mentally cycle through all of your opponent's projectiles to try and figure out the one that's going to do the most damage.
Yeah. Ooh, time again.
Yep, off of time. Monty's going to go ahead and take it off a sliver of health.
And you know, again, this is a series of stamina. You know, obviously we're not going back and forth, but it is you know, multiple rounds going the full 2 minutes. Multiple rounds with both of these players dodging and avoiding shots, and really that means they are being physical because they are dodging. And as I say, that Master doesn't do a whole lot of dodging.
This is the tilt. This is the tilt that I was talking about.
I think, you know,
mentally, he has already lost, but I hope he can pull it back. Come on, Master.
This is obviously, or this is probably something that, you know, we're seeing with other 3-0s that we haven't really addressed. You know, obviously getting into that third game, the final round, to stay mentally in it is a challenge. And maybe it's why we've seen 3-0s come through here today with the pressure on. It's just kind of maybe too much. I don't know. But either way, Master is sticking in there. They are catching some damage onto Monty. It's just a matter of now surviving the onslaught, which they do.
No caster curse. No caster curse today.
Yeah, well, as long as they're not listening, then it won't impact them, right? I think that's how it works, something like that.
Oh, okay. Here's that push. Yeah, really using that Vandal. I mean, again, you know, you have to ask yourself the question, would a shield be more effective in that case? And I think that, yeah, absolutely. Switching that Vandal out for a shield, but, you know, sometimes you stay with what you like, what's effective. The only other thing I gotta say about that Vandal is that it seems like most of the time when he's using it to you know, get rid of the projectiles that Monty's throwing out, he's actually kind of getting blinded himself. It's blocking the vision.
Oh, no. I hope they didn't hurt themselves. It looks like Master fell on that dot. They're getting up from the ground now, and I think they're okay. I think
they're okay.
Yeah. But, hey, that's the physicality of Blaston, baby, and that's the series into Monty's hands with 3 games to 0.
Yeah, honestly, I always tell players, especially when they're first getting in, do stuff like stretch. Do actually like warm up your muscles, because this is a sport, and if you don't do that, you could potentially hurt yourself. You probably won't, but you could, so always be sure of that. But yeah, overall, I think that the Vandal, it ended up being good when Master was using it to its full effectiveness, but really going up against bullet hell, he really wanted to see some bigger projectiles, some nades coming out, some novas coming out, rather than a million tiny projectiles coming at him from all sides, which is not where the Vandal shines.
Yeah. I think we may go into a bit of an extended break here, just being the timing. We've flown through the series essentially. You know, because I think honestly we've had so many 3-0s. We only had actually one game that wasn't a 3-0 so far today, and it was Turbo and Peters. And so whether it's round 1, you know, game 1 jitters, you know, the seeding. I mean, there's a lot of as a bit of a tournament nerd, that is expected for double elimination seeding. You know, basically how you see double elimination is you line up all the players in order of skill, and then you kind of just fold the list on each other. So the players at the ends of the spectrum fight, and then really towards the middle is where you start getting these closer matchups. But I definitely think that, especially in round 1, it's much easier to psych yourself out because you know that a lot of the time you're going up against really, really tough opponents. Oh no. I'm getting a report that they did fall. Master
Oh, no.
twisted their ankle and then hit it against the wall. And so our best wishes to them that they're okay after that spill. I mean, oddly enough, that's the beauty of VR. You really see the physicality of it. You could tell they fell. You could see them falling off to the side there. But they seem they're okay. At least they're talking in Discord and they're gonna figure it out. But get some ice on that or something because wow, that is.
I'm actually gonna.
Jeez, that's. Hey, like we said, they're moving. They're moving in this game. They're moving and shaking.
And you know what? That is another thing to bring up. Again, most of the people watching this, I would imagine that you have at least participated in some virtual reality stuff before. But for those of you who may not know, setting up your play space is probably the most important thing that you can do when you're playing in stuff like this. I mean, again, of course, in Blaston, if you go out of bounds either way, you're gonna get zapped. You're not gonna have a fun time. But especially on the front of your play area, where that zapping doesn't, when you're stretching your arm out, that isn't being taken into account. Being able to take those long-barreled weapons like the Tundra, the Viper Ellipse, and being able to get that little bit of extra distance is actually really, really important.
Yeah, getting closing the gap, as they say, definitely adds value. And
Exactly.
like I said, I think we're gonna have to go into a bit of a longer break here, unfortunately, until we get to our final game of the afternoon. It should be Captain Fabulous and Tim, but it may be 10 or 15 minutes from now, just because of the anticipated scheduling. The players were not anticipating being ready until a little bit later. Although I do see Tim typing, so maybe they are around. Maybe we don't.
Okay, all right, we might be good.
I'm gonna hold. We're gonna keep stalling. We're gonna keep stalling here for a little bit longer.
Just so everyone can appreciate, again, things that I absolutely love about just being in this world. It's this no cyberpunk thing I do in my normal life. But Tim is actually going to be coming from Western Australia. And Captain Fabulous, as I believe, I don't know exactly where he is right now, but in Portugal. So we're talking about two players that are on opposite sides of the world who are playing in the very first round of these finals, which, again, you see that with normal esports all the time, but with VR esports, it all becomes a little bit more real because you can see the people's body language. It's almost like you're really in the same room with them.
Yeah, it really is. And I think we are still going to have to go to a bit of a break for Tim to get
it is
set
5
up.
a.m. his time.
Yeah, for them to get set up and ready. This is a global tournament, obviously. That's something we haven't really talked about, right? This is not an EU-NA division breakup. This is everyone mashed together, the best of the best in each division going up against each other. And so I have seen a couple of EU-NA sort of chants in chat. Of course, there's the sort of respective battles going on there too, but it is a global tournament. So we do have, like we said, players that are waking up at 5 a.m. right now to participate in this event. And so we do want to make sure we give them time to get ready. And I am getting reports it's just a sprained ankle. There's no breakage on Masters. So there's a sprain. It should be okay for tomorrow. That's the real concern, right? They're gonna have to play tomorrow.
Well, yeah, and I mean, even if it is sprained, not broken, that could still factor in.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll be sure to follow up with them later today either way and make sure they're doing all right. I mean, it would be a shame, but your personal health comes first either way, and I would hate for that to be the reason he wasn't able to make it to losers one. But at the end of the day, health comes first, everybody. That goes for COVID, that goes for injuries, that goes for stretching, that goes for everything.
Yes, it does indeed. Again, a shout out to everyone tuning in, whether you're on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, or venues. We are going to go to a break, so maybe take that headset off for the next 10 minutes, charge it a little bit, get ready for the final match of the afternoon, and rejoin us when we come back. Captain Fabulous versus Tim is our last one, and then, again, more games tomorrow and next weekend. So plenty of Blaston left ahead of us, but we're going to go to a brief break, and don't go anywhere.
Hey Blasters, and welcome to the Blaston Championships of 2022. Want to showcase your skills in the futuristic duels of Blaston? Well, it's time to put those dodging skills to the test and go head to head with the top players in the Blaston Championships. But first, sit back and relax as we take you through of how it will all go down. The Blaston Championship consists of 3 phases: point gathering, last chance qualifiers, and the Blaston Championship finals. Phase 1 starts this August, where you'll be able to participate in the championships just by playing the game. Players who play the ranked mode between August and September and place in the top 100 on the seasonal leaderboard will receive championship points to earn their spot in the finals. But that's not all. Each week from Tuesday to Thursday, we'll be hosting an in-game Blaston challenge where you can gather even more championship points. Here you enter by using your blasts and battle others to rack up as many wins as you can before you get 5 losses. The player with the most victories wins the challenge. Each week we'll switch out the game mode in the Blast Zone challenge, starting with the seasonal mode Quick Draw, Arctic Blast, and then Street Brawl. So even if you don't have time to grind out those seasonal ranks, you can still join in on the action and earn championship points. We'll be offering other ways to earn championship points as well, introducing community events as sanctioned tournaments to help you raise your championship score. At the end of September, the players in North America and Europe with the most points will qualify for the Blaston Championship finals. Before we get to the final phase, however, let's take a look at the second one. Players who didn't make it to the finals with their championship points will have another chance to make it to the big show with the last chance qualifier. This tournament is divided into North American and European showdowns, with players competing in a double elimination bracket over the course of October. The top players will earn a slot at the Blaston Championship Finals, taking place in November, where they'll fight for $10,000 and the chance to become
the champion of their region.
Streamed on Twitch with a professional broadcast, we'll showcase all of the matches in the Blaston Championship Finals weekend.
Here comes the full setup, the full attack, the Super Majestic from both sides. Again, it's the Double Viper. 3, 2, who's gonna take it?
I hope that you're excited to compete in the first ever Blaston Championship. We wish you good luck and may the best blaster win.
We are back after a riveting ad, which we do love to see. For the championship series, we are here for the final game of the afternoon. Tim versus Captain Fabulous. Our EU matchup, or EUNA matchup, or EUOCE? EUOCE
Yeah,
matchup.
EUOCE, yeah.
We'll have to see how this one goes. I think we're in store for some loadout swaps, some lobby changes. It's going to be an interesting battle between these two. And I'm going to go ahead and give the ready to both squads. And then we will dive into examining the loadouts. What is Mr. Fabulous bringing? Anything that they've hinted to us, or are we?
Yes. Actually, the hint of the hammer, the collision hammer, expecting Tim to bring Health Nova, but Tim has not brought Health Nova. Instead, Tim has brought the Damage Lance, which is something that we haven't seen so far today. Outside of that, you know, we're seeing the standards, Fast Fall Hurricane, Extra Spread Hammernade, Fast Hammernade, whatever you want to call it. Raptor Ellipse from, or actually, I'm sorry, not Raptor Ellipse from both these. But yeah, and then it's really that Damage Lance, you know, it comes out real quick and it only stays around for a split second, but it actually does more damage than the 9-second Lance Rapide. So it is a really high value for its cooldown as long as you can land it.
We've given the go-ahead to both players, and despite Cap being involved in this process for 7 games, they don't know that the ready is the ready. So we'll go ahead and tell them again, and then we should be...
At some point, we'll just be able to cast in-game. I'm sure.
Yeah, right. We'll just be standing there yelling, "Go!"
Yeah, exactly.
And then they'll start. Yeah.
In our Clamo skins on opposite sides of the arena. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Or we could be running around. Anyway, into the action we go. Enough wishing. We've got gameplay in front of us to enjoy. It's Captain Fabulous. It's Tim in blue. Cap in pink, and off to the races we go as Cap tries to kick things off to a good start and ends up taking a Raptor Ellipse for 10 damage.
Yep. Yeah, Cap is running the Oops All DPS build, it seems. What I'll usually call anyone who runs more than double Vipers. But, you know, I've played against him with this build before. Ooh, there you go, landing the curve Luma. Doing a really good job making sure to keep the focus on the damage.
the Hurricanes coming in. Those have been a big element, a big threat to a lot of players here today. And you can see Cap trying to kind of throw off the opponent by diving forward to the front. There's the Lumas trying to connect. Doesn't quite string any of that together, but good dodge work from Tim, if anything, to be avoiding everything that did get thrown at them. The damage lance comes in, but nicely dodged by Cap, and a little bit of a rebuttal from Cap ends up getting some damage onto Tim.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because Tim is trying to distract with the nade and then go in with the hammer. Or I'm sorry, not with the hammer, with the damage lance. And it's simple. It's a 2-weapon combo, but you know what? It works, doesn't it?
It does.
Ooh, there we go.
There's
Getting
that.
zapped.
Yeah, there's that 9 damage. That's basically the same as getting connected with the Raptor Ellipse bullet there, and those have certainly been doing some good chunks in what we've been seeing here today. And here comes the full set. The Wildcat comes in, big Wildcat damage onto Cap. They still have the Viper there. The Double Viper comes in, and they connect with a bounce to just barely take round 1 with 30 seconds left and a sliver of health.
Yeah, sliver of health in a dream. That damage lance, again, no joke, especially if both of those beams manage to land at the same time. And, anything, it seems, is distracting Cap enough for it to land, Even Cap just pointing his gun up and trying to focus on getting the ideal placement of those Hurricanes, it's enough of an opportunity.
Yeah, doing a good job zoning, too. They actually push Cap down into those Hurricanes with that double lance. Really,
okay, the Majestic coming on the backside.
That's a nice one. That's a good bit of zoning.
We might see some damage coming off from it. Oh, nope, I guess not.
Nope, doesn't get thrown into it quite yet. They tried to with the Hurricane push them to the back, but it wasn't quite in time. There's another good Majestic that is doing a good bit of zoning and does allow Cap to connect with a couple of big hits, but still there's equal damage getting thrown from Tim. Those lasers, those lances really doing a nice job of chipping a little bits of damage off here and there, and also obviously zoning Cap into bigger shots like that Raptor Ellipse there. The Luma does connect.
Huge Luma. Man, the Luma has really been doing most of the work today. Ooh, and the Viper Ellipse as well. And Captain Fabulous is going to go ahead and take game 1.
Yeah, you spoke too soon.
Okay.
They are...
they are going to go through a host swap. This is just something, again, these two are playing from opposite sides of the world, and because of that, latency can be a little bit strange from match to match. So they're actually going to go ahead and swap who's hosting the room. That way, any sort of imbalance that may be caused just due to the pure distance and latency can be a little bit compensated for.
I think they're talking about it now. Tim, I think, is saying, let's just rematch, and Cap is maybe arguing against it. I don't know, but we'll have to see. If the connection's good, then I guess they're just going to keep kind of soldiering on. It's going to be
Oh, you know what? Slowed is right. I'm sorry. It's going to be two with Cap, 2 with Tim, and then the last... Oh, no. Okay, no, I was right. Slowed?
Yeah.
Unless they're going for a build-out swap off.
Yeah, that could also be the case too. Maybe subbing out that drill lance for something else. It was doing a nice job zoning, but it wasn't necessarily catching, I think, as much damage as they were hoping for. So they could, in fact, take a much more effective lance that would do even more zoning, right? If that's really what they were getting out of that lance.
Yeah, exactly. And really, again, with these attachments, a lot of the times the function of the weapon is staying the same, but its purpose is changing. And with that damaged lance, the purpose is really catching your opponent off guard and doing a quick bit of damage. So you can almost compare it more so to like a Viper, just in terms of both damage and, when you're actually getting that damage off. I saw a lot, though, from Cap. Again, all these really high damage weapons from his side, constantly disrupting Tim's combo. Yeah. And that was causing him to lay down one lance, then he has to dodge and go all over the place, and then laying out the other lance, which, when they're only staying around for 2 seconds, isn't a lot of time at all. Yeah, it really isn't. And I see a recommendation for a shield coming in. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a good... I don't know. For Tim or Cap, I really don't know, because both of them are kind of playing very high DPS builds, and yeah, an Aegis shield is usually a very good pick, especially if they're coming down to the line. Sometimes being able to have a bit more aggression can help you out more, or at least put the pressure on your opponent and make their combos a little bit more disrupted and eliminate the need for a shield. I do think we got our next room code too.
we're gonna get the answers to our questions.
Yeah, right.
What's-
I think that a lot of people in chat were saying it too. They're like, why isn't Tim using the Nova? So I guess we'll have to see. Oh, it does come out here, and it is going to be Bounce Nova.
There you go. Love to see it. We're going to go ahead and give the players the ready, as we are very much ready for our next round. Round at number 2. I do have to do a quick team swap, as they obviously have swapped sides, so give me a second there.
Yep.
To,
I'm going to go
correct
ahead and
that.
explain the difference, because the one
Sure.
Nova that we saw today was the Health Nova.
Yes.
Which is going to have 95 health. So obviously, main purpose of that is going to be to suck up as many projectiles as it possibly can. However, with the Bounce Nova, especially after the changes last patch, only has 45 health. So actually, 3 hits from the Hurricane could take out each one of these Novas. So Tim is going to have to get a little bit fancy with the shots that he is sending out, especially since he has the best.
Interesting. Well, into the action we go. Captain Fabulous still having to deal with those drill lances. Ooh, but what a big play from them. Absolutely pushing them right into a majestic nade where they sat for what was more than half their health bar. Couldn't ask for a better opening there for Cap.
Yeah, I think that he actually ended up taking damage from both out of bounds and Majestic Nade, which is just brutal.
Yeah. That's why it's more than half, because they took half from out of bounds.
Exactly.
And then a little extra from the nade. That makes more sense. But either way, a good opening for Captain Fabulous. And now Tim definitely going to have to chip away and kind of bounce back from what is a rough start. But like we've seen in Blaston, there's no you're never out of it. You know, there's always room to climb back into things, especially with a full minute left.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, this isn't the matchup that he wants to see. I was about to make a comment. He really has exercised a bit of control with those Novas. Really not using those, right off the bat if he can help it. But he did manage to send it right into a hammer, which is not what he wants to do.
Uh-oh.
Woo!
Catches big damage there from one of the Viper ellipses, it looked like. And now Tim, on the back foot, and Luma connects for Captain Fabulous, and another round into Captain's pocket. They are looking close to taking their second game and potentially on to that third. But obviously, anyone's game just yet, as Tim has proven that they can certainly chip away at Fabulous's HP. It's just really a matter of that opening. Obviously, that opening last round was not exactly what Tim would have wanted, and so maybe they can do a little bit better here going into round 2.
Yeah, okay, and here we go. The Nova's into the double Viper, even with the
Nice.
reduced health, is still pretty good. But again, especially after the last patch, you got to get creative with those bounces. It's no longer a matter of using them defensively and sending them forwards at your opponent. Personally, one of my favorite things to do is bounce them off the ceiling, because usually it's very hard for your opponent to get rid of the projectile before it manages to hit your podium.
Big connection there from Cap.
Ooh, the damage!
Ooh, but yeah, look at those lances absolutely blasting away on the Fabulous. Now Tim is getting the damage they need from those lances. And yeah, to the point though, that health Nova really just getting quickly shut down by the Bull Hammer. It's you know, one shot from that and they've got one health Nova gone.
Ooh, there we are!
Oh,
Woo,
another!
he does it again!
The bounce almost, Tim, went into the bounce to end this game, game 2. But that's going to be the Luma. That's going to be the one that connects, and that is going to be a game number 2. I wonder now if we do see any more loadout swaps, or if we do just get a lobby swap, but I'm curious because there's something needs to change there. That health Nova definitely wasn't doing what I think Tim wanted it to be doing.
Yeah,
Or the bounce Nova, excuse. Was it a bounce Nova?
Yeah, no, same idea. I think that that's the one swap that we could very easily see is Tim swapping from the bounce to the health Nova.
Did I?
Again,
I didn't see a single Nova bounced there. I think about it.
Okay, one managed to get through and it bounced completely wide. And that's the thing with a lot of these bounce weapons is that, you know, your ideal place to bounce is actually off the back wall behind your opponent, right? Because turning all the way around is much more difficult than looking up or looking off to the side in order to really identify it. But nowadays, it's so hard to get through a straight shot with the amount of health that the Bounce Nova now has, and be able to use it like you normally would a Nova, where you're firing it straight off at your opponent. And this, you could actually even extend this to the Bounce Viper as well, which although can usually get through to the back wall, you know, usually if your opponent, for example, is crouching down and you try and fire down at them, you're not going to have an ideal place to really bounce off of. So if Tim wants to use this defensively, I would be very surprised if he doesn't go for just straight health Nova. Otherwise, I think we could definitely see him going back to the build that he was running before, you know, a little bit less defensive, but, you know, hopefully can stand a little bit more of a chance against Caps. Oops, all damage.
What do we got? Break it down for us. Looks like same thing. The hammer, no. A Hurricane, Raptor, Bounce Viper. A Bounce Viper? Were they bringing? I don't think Tim was bringing that.
Yeah, he was bringing that, but so he did get rid of the Nova for sure.
Hurricane. No, they had the Hurricane. Wow.
Yeah, they had the Hurricane. I think this is just a swap for the
hammer
nade. Yeah, the hammer nade.
Yeah. And to your point, nothing coming in from Fabulous. Yeah. Why would you? They've won all the rounds.
And you know, the interesting thing too is, again, you know, a big part of upper level Blaston play is that drop blocking. When you're dropping weapons into bullets in order to eliminate them, kind of like shielding, which, you know, Captain Fabulous is running that Majestic nade, I would say mostly for its health. It's got 25 health, which of course you could run a 3-second shield, but you know, having the ability to also use it offensively, but also get rid of, for example, the bouncing Viper bullets is going to be very valuable for them.
Yeah. Let's see what we get. Go in to round number 1 of game 3. Captain Fabulous looking to take the series here if they can snag another 2 rounds. But Tim is opening up nicely with some good damage.
Yeah. Very nice bounces from there.
Oh, okay. Bounce Viper in the lips.
Catch him twice.
Just like that, Cap. Right back into it and in the lead. The Lumas don't connect, thankfully. That would have really been the nail in the coffin, but those are dodged. And, ooh, the Lance catching Fabulous big time.
Yeah. And again, just stepping in it for just a second, it hurts so much.
A lot of bouncing going on with the Vipers, and Fabulous getting peppered on the bottom. Still, like you said, alive, but just barely a Lance away. And Tim takes a round. I think the first round they've taken against Fabulous in the series.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, that damage Lance, you really have to watch out for, because if you're not paying attention to it, it can easily do, you know, not terribly much damage, but, you know, 15, 20 damage, easy.
Catch a little bit of chunk there, but Fabulous steps forward and manages to connect with one of the Vipers. Big damage, getting them back in it, but we've seen the ability of that to be returned to Captain, and ooh, a Hurricane does connect there. Raptor Lips comes in, Tim gets slammed by the Majestic nade, and Fabulous extends the lead a little bit more.
Yep. That Majestic. If you do manage to get the prime placement, that's definitely the hard part, but once it's in the middle of your opponent's podium, it's actually very hard to get around. It's just a matter of getting it there first.
Well, that was an interesting way of denying the Lance with the Hurricane. Well, I don't know if that was an intentional or not, but it does work out quite nicely and ends up kind of denying that Lance from hitting Fab, and now Fab continues to try and apply the pressure with the Luma, with the Hurricane, nothing quite connecting, and instead they take one to the shoulder there. They do hit with, was that a Viper, or was that a Hurricane
that was
shot
a Viper,
hitting on the
and now
back?
it's a weapon throws away.
Oh, a nade throwaway. A nade throwaway is all it took, and rounds get tied up. Our first time that we've had a tie in the series here between these two, so we'll have to see who comes out on top. Again, if Fabulous can win this, they take the series and will move on. Otherwise, Tim obviously fighting for a long comeback road ahead of them. Oh, a bounce connects.
Managing to get the bounce right at the start of the round. He's managing to get a lot of these through. I'm surprised that Tim isn't even taking the risk to drop block.
A return.
Really
a little bit of bounce back.
I have no idea how that Lance didn't do damage to him. From my position, it looked like it was hitting his torso. Oh my goodness.
Tim's hand getting caught out there. That's going to hurt them bad. Again, the Vipers really landing here. And ooh, a little bit of an ellipse. A bounce actually hits on the Fabulous. Some big damage. That does chip down Fab a little bit closer to Tim's HP bar, but not quite the same as, ooh, that's a good Majestic.
There's a lot of
great
damage going on from
Majestic.
both sides. Oh. Man, I couldn't even tell. Well, actually, I do know what did all the damage. It was the Hurricane.
Whoa!
Oh, no!
And Fabulous almost out of the wood, or almost dead there, but ends up taking the round and the series.
Yeah. Cab really showing off, too, what counter pressure looks like, you know?
Yeah.
And that's how we managed to survive for so long without truly any strictly defensive options. Just timing things correctly, really taking those steps towards the front of his podium, getting that spacing in that you need, and then, you know, exploiting his opponent's attention, you know, throwing things off in different directions and trying to sneak stuff through. So that was very well played by both of those two. Man.
We got to talk about tomorrow here, Oolong, because tomorrow is going to be interesting. I think today maybe we saw players sort of reserving their loadouts, you know, not necessarily showcasing what they're, you know, maybe the best of the best of what they can put out there, or the variety that they're capable of. I think round 2 tomorrow and some loser bracket rounds, I think we're in store for a little bit more tomfoolery, a little bit more trickery with the loadouts, and I'm really looking forward to getting to these round 2 matchups. We obviously also do have that losers bracket. As we scroll down, you can see we're going to be getting into some of those losers bracket rounds as well. I actually think it's going to just be the 4 rounds of round 2 and the 4 games of the losers bracket tomorrow. And then or maybe I could be wrong on that, but either way, we're going to be catching a lot. Yeah, I think that's the format. Yeah. And then next weekend, we wrap up the tournament with the finishing off the losers bracket and then the finals on Sunday. So a lot of Blaston ahead, like I said, but any final thoughts, Oolong, before we sign off here?
Well, I think the MVPs for today, the big weapons to talk about that we're probably going to see tomorrow and throughout the rest of this bracket. First and foremost, the Luma. Almost every single, well, I wouldn't say every single attachment got used. We actually didn't see Bounce Luma or the splitting Luma. We saw the curve and the base Luma coming out and doing a ton of damage, really quick fire rates, you know, players who are slinging off all 3 of those shots at once. And, you know, maybe you're catching 20 damage, but in ideal cases, you're catching 40 damage, which is huge, especially when another big weapon for today was the Viper Ellipse.
Yeah.
You know, seeing it do a lot of damage. It recently got a little bit of a buff where it got taken down from, I want to say, a 6-second cooldown to a 5-second cooldown, which is, I mean, not the biggest difference in the world, but does absolutely make a difference as far as flexibility in your builds. That plus the buff to the straight Viper, another second attraction, made double Vipers a much more attractive option. And Oops All DPS might actually become meta during this final series.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, just huge damage, and especially when most of the Blaston metas have been focused on, you know, slow and consistent play, going all the way to the 2-second mark. The fact that now they've switched over to, you know, really just straight up DPS and zoning your opponent and going in with a lot of damage, that is a huge difference that honestly I don't think we've really seen before in Blaston. So that'll be very, very interesting. I would also like to see, I think that Tim kind of made a point there. Damage Lance, I think, is an underappreciated option that could be doing a lot of damage in the next couple rounds, especially as players go back and watch these matches.
Yeah, a big shout out to everyone that tuned in here today, whether you're on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, or Horizon venues. We appreciate you. More of this tomorrow, same time, same place. Probably the same length of time, about 3 hours of Blast On. So be sure to set aside the battery packs so that you're ready to go and can watch it all on venues if you want to. Otherwise, we appreciate you for hanging out and stopping by. It is going to be it from us here this afternoon, though. My name has been Nightfire with 2 E's. My co-caster, Dr. Oolong, Captain Fabulous, joining us earlier. We will see you all tomorrow for more Blast On Championship action. Day 2 will be coming at you, so don't miss it.